everybody, it's me, John Ward, and I am back with another One Filmmaker, One Film. And today my guest is.
Wych Kaosayananda. I am a filmmaker, uh, independent filmmaker. I live and work outside of Thailand. I went to school in the States and worked in LA for a number of years, and I've been back in Thailand now for 17, 18 years.
Oh, wow. Okay. And
Yeah.
actually, my very first question is actually about The Hangover Part Two. Have you seen that?
hmm Yes, I
How,
have.
how, how do you, when you see a film like that, and it's like in Thailand and stuff, and how it's represented, how do you look at that? Sense of
Um,
humor or?
well, I'm always excited. I'm always excited when anybody, whether it's Hangover, especially a movie that's a big studio movie, comes to Thailand. It's always great. First of all, most of the crew that works on it that are Thai, like I know, I would know the majority of them, so that's always exciting. And I was a massive fan of the first Hangover.
Oh, yeah.
So, so when they were shooting it, I I visited the set unofficially because, a lot of the stunt people and everything I know well. So I went on, the scene where they jump the cars over the little canal thing.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, I watched them set up the rig. My rig did it, so they're good friends of mine, and I was far, far in the background watching them when they did the stunts. That was cool, and because it's stuff I love, it's stuff that I do myself, so it's always great to see uh, at that level with that much resources and everything. Like it's a great learning experience, and with watching your friends work. Um, the movie itself, I was uh, I liked it, but it was a huge fall off from the first one. And in terms of it being in Thailand, the one thing about Thailand, the way it's represented, no matter which part of Thailand, I always find that movies that come here, they always make Thailand look dirty. Like it's always like, either overly like saturated or like this gritty green, like effect. And it's always like a lot of handheld stuff, and it's always like, they want it to feel gritty. And I use the word dirty, and whereas I think Thailand is the exact opposite. It's, and I get it. It's changed a lot now, like today in 2024. But, all my life growing up, for half of my life, the majority of my life, when you talk about Thailand, people think, Bangkok, red light district, and I feel to an extent, especially Hollywood, it's Thailand is still portrayed that way, and I absolutely Hangover 2 is very guilty of it. The majority of the movie, it's in that world, and everything. So that was a little bit disappointing because I think, and I believe anyone who's come to Thailand, will agree with me. It's like Thailand is such a wonderful country. It's got everything. It's a melting pot. It's very high tech. It's very modern, and very, very few cities where you have a population of over 12, 14 million people in one city. It's a mega city, but very few cities have like 100-story skyscrapers, sky trains going over roads like Blade Runner, right? But like over temples in the middle of the city, the contrast
Cool.
of all, like and that version of Thailand, I don't think has really been portrayed in film, and that's the one hope I still have, like that someone comes in and shows the beauty aspect of Bangkok. Like they do when they go to the south on the beaches and everything. You see the beautiful beaches, and like the movie The Beach. It's all pretty landscapes. Beautiful beaches. Clear blue water and everything. But every time a movie shoots in Bangkok, and there's so many movies that shoot in Bangkok, it's always the dirty, grimy aspect of Bangkok. you know, and I hope that changes.
Yeah, I think unless you're from there or have a true love of the place, like you can look at somebody like, let's say, Michael Mann, who loves
Hmm.
LA.
Yeah.
Everything is in blues. And even
Hmm.
in the gritty areas, if he makes LA look beautiful.
Yeah.
And I've probably spent a quarter of my life in LA, and
Hmm.
it doesn't look like that. You know,
Yeah.
it's but he makes it look beautiful. James Cameron
Yeah.
is another one who
Yeah.
makes LA look beautiful.
Yeah.
um I'm from originally San Francisco, that area,
Hmm.
and San Francisco is always shown as like this beautiful city. And
Yes.
then, with The Hangover, I live in Las Vegas, and they did not show the grimy side of Vegas. They definitely
Hmm.
showed the buildings and the lights and the strip, and they did all of
Hmm.
that. So it's interesting that they, then would show in part two something very different,
Yeah.
and because there are certain films when you look at them, you go, oh, I want to go there.
Yeah.
And do you feel that kind of Hangover Part Two did the opposite of people maybe going, ooh, I don't want to go there?
Well, I don't know, you know, because the movie was good, you know, it was fun, and you saw they showed a lot of Bangkok, you know, and everything. But even in their color scheme and how they graded the movie, you know, I mean, they went out of their way to take the beauty out of it, right? So, I don't know. I think there's a large section of the audience that would watch Hangover and go, "Oh shit, I want to go," you know. But it's
I mean, yeah,
you know, it
when I watched it, I it never made me say I don't want to go. But
yeah,
watching
yeah,
your films and stuff, and
yeah,
filmed, where you're at, you've kind of hit both sides.
yeah,
And I've told myself, oh, I would love to go visit over there. I think,
yeah,
because
yeah. Like
every
in
place does have good and bad.
yeah, and I tried to show that, like in Angels, you know, like I try to show both sides of Bangkok, but the story lended itself to a particular, you know, it's not a comedy, first of all, right? And when you look at
Oh no.
comedies, you think it's like, you know, comedies are bright, you know, most of it, like, you know, it's not, you know, like we're not talking dark comedy, we're talking just comedy in general, and I don't think Hangover or Hangover 2 or Hangover 3 is dark comedy. It's raunchy comedy, but it's certainly not dark, you know. Whereas like Angels is dark. It's a dark movie, but I still try to keep everything bright. You know, like there's darkness, but there's brightness, and like especially in the ending, you know, we set the stage where we did, and that's it was actually a park. We said because I wanted to be like bright sunlight, you know, and ended outdoors, you know, with big, you know, big shots, wide shots, and just, you know, had the girl Joy in white, you know, like just because like I just wanted to bring a little bit of color, more color into the movie because a lot of it is really dark, you know. But Angels is also like it's not the poster child of like Welcome to Bangkok. You know, it wasn't that movie. You know, like Hangover could have been though. You know, like what I'm saying, but like the subject matter just wasn't that. You know, and then the other movie I did that was very very Bangkok specific, One Night in Bangkok. I mean, even in the title, it's one night in Bangkok. You know, like it's very
Right.
hard to go out of my way. You know, but even then, I tried to create uh moments or visuals that were pretty, for lack of a better word. You know, despite the story,
Yeah.
despite whatever, you know, it was still it wasn't like the visuals weren't dark. You know, like I didn't want the visually to be dark because I felt the story was already dark. Like Angels, you know, it's like so I didn't want the visuals to go with that and just make everything like just really dark and depressing.
Well, it's, yeah, because it's like in Angels, if they enter a club, the
Yeah,
the the actors are, very much
yeah,
kind of, like half in the dark, half not.
yeah,
But then you have all the lights, all those
yeah,
fluorescent different colored
yeah.
lights going on,
Mhm.
and then that cuts to, yeah, like the beach,
Yes.
And like you said, like, you know, the actress is in white, and
Yeah.
it's very bright. It's the blue
Yes.
ocean, and
Yes.
so it's very different. But the
Yes.
like the club scenes almost have kind of like a techno type feel with the, and then you have a very traditional kind of, you know, on the beach
Yes.
type of filmmaking.
Yes.
And so it's a nice contrast to have.
Yes.
So so what is, explain to the people that are watching, what is chaos, spelled with a K, chaos entertainment?
Well, chaos came, chaos is my name. It's the first four letters of my name. My last name is Kasayananda, which is 12 letters long. So in college, my best friend in college, in Emerson College in Boston, Dana Juliana, we met up and he wanted to be a DP. So he loved camera and everything, and at the time I was just focused on wanting to be a director. So he was my DP for like my years in college. And when he wrote my name on the slate, he could never spell my name. So he just wrote Kaos. And then it stuck. People called me Chaos, like the crew, like my friends in college, right? They just called me Chaos. And when you're a college kid, it's fun. And I graduated, came back to Thailand, and then I had the opportunity to make my first feature film. I was like 24. And being a 24-year-old kid, having graduated, film BFA, from Emerson College, you can imagine the arrogance that I had as a 24-year-old about to direct my first feature film in Thailand with like three of the biggest actors, in Thailand. And so I just decided to keep the name Chaos, like, one name moniker, like, like Tarzim, who was someone who had done commercials and I was a big fan of. I'd never met him or anything, but his name's Tarzim Singh, but everyone knows him as Tarzan, So I was like, that's cool, one name, like, and I make no bones about it. He was the inspiration when I started working professionally on my first movie. So I just called myself Chaos, and then it just stuck. And then after that movie, and when I got to come to Hollywood afterwards, and I actually, when I got to Hollywood, I was just going to use my name, which Kasayanan, because I was like, okay, now like I'm sort of like I'm grown up, so like I want to, but my producer I was working with, my agent that I got, and they all like, Chaos is a good name, just keep it, like you should just use it, and that's how I was introduced into the town as Chaos and everything. And then, so when I came back to Thailand, I was like, you know what, I never meant to use Chaos. It never meant to last that long. So it was like, I'm just going back to my name, my full name. Like I like it. And, but I came back and I created my company here in Thailand. And I just thought, I'll use that as the name of the company, Chaos Entertainment, instead, but then on my movies, you'll see I use my full name now, and I have been for the past 15, 16 years, and Chaos is just sort of part of the memory in the back, but it lives on in my company's name.
Well, it's nice to do that when you can incorporate something that is yours into the
Yes.
company.
Yes.
And as an example, you could probably see down on my screen, it says Dark Park Films. Dark Park is in Marin County, which is up from San Francisco. And you would enter the canyon where I lived, and it's a park, and it's
Uh-huh.
completely covered by trees. Like there's no sunlight in there at all. And
Hence
so
the dark.
yeah, and so when we were kids, we would say, let's go to the dark park. And we
Okay.
all knew what that meant. And we would just meet. It
Yeah.
had its own name. It was called Dover Park, but we just called it the dark park.
Very
And
cool.
so I thought, oh, okay,
Right.
let me, kind of put that in there. And then people who knew me would comment, hey, that's where we used to play.
Yeah.
So it's nice. And your name with the chaos, especially with the K, it's got that kind of double meaning. It's chaos, that a lot is
Yeah.
happening at this moment, and then it's your name, so
Yeah.
it fits. And
Yeah.
I've heard this a long time ago. I don't know where it was, or really if it makes, I don't even know if it makes a lot of sense, but I've always said, oh yeah, everything begins with chaos. And so that kind of fits for you, that everything does begin with
Yeah,
chaos
well, I
because
love,
you have to sit at the computer.
and I love the chaos theory, right? So if you look at the
Yes.
movies, my
Oh
logo
yeah.
is a butterfly. And
That's
the
right, it
company logo is a
is.
butterfly. And that's,
Yeah.
because of the chaos theory. So like you said, it all fits, like it all just kind of makes sense. And that's, I mean, it's cool. The monarch butterfly, like it's a cool animal. And but like when I created this 15, 16 years ago, it was also like the double meaning of like, hey, we're this little company in Thailand, and hopefully, what we do, has ripple effect, like so like, when you're young, you just do whatever you want, and now it's too late to change it.
Yeah. And I love the chaos theory and the butterfly
Mhm,
effect and and
mhm.
and all of that. I've read about it, I've watched videos
Yeah,
about it. I
yeah,
love the movie The
yeah,
Butterfly Effect. I love
yeah,
anything that you move one thing and it affects
yeah,
something 1,000 miles away. I love the idea of that. So it's a
yeah.
great name. And I've watched on the DVDs that have them, the behind the scenes is like your crew has
Hmm.
jackets that say
Yeah, yeah. Shirts
Chaos
and stuff. Yeah,
Entertainment and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
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 so that's pretty cool.
yeah.
um so now you've talked about your name, and how do you decide then what films get the full name, that get the shortened name, and then you've already kind of
Well,
explained
well,
chaos.
it's when I direct a movie, it's always Wych Kaosayananda. It's my full name as a director, right? But when I DP, it's just because my name's so long, I just use Witch Chaos.
Okay.
Because it's just such a long name, and when especially when I'm DPing for other people and everything, it's just just keep it short. It's like I'm not trying to be like Steve Soderbergh and have an alias and like not let people know that I'm DPing my own movie or whatever. It's nothing like that because it's still my name, but it's just shorter, and you don't want to take up because Witch Kasayanan takes up a large chunk of the screen.
It
There's
does.
no denying that, like so it's like, but as a DP, I don't, so just keep it short. That's it. That's the only reason. There's no other reason.
Well, and which chaos is great by itself.
Yeah,
you, you
yeah,
know just which you could take as WITCH and then
yeah.
chaos. So it fits right there too. So you got just chaos, which is awesome, and then
Mhm.
which chaos, and then your full name. So it all works. And with your full name, the directed by, as we've normally seen, is below everything.
Yeah,
So it doesn't take up, like in the regular credits. You're not going to
yeah,
have it on two rows or take,
yeah, yeah,
if it's
yeah,
always down at the bottom, it seems
yeah,
to work. So yeah, it just, all this stuff just kind of seems to work together,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
and you've worked with a few actors a few times. I wrote them down here just to make
yeah.
sure. Like Dustin Nigan. Am I saying his name
Yeah,
correctly?
Dustin Gwynn.
Oh, is it
Yeah,
Gwen?
Dustin. Yeah, yeah, Dustin Gwynn.
Wow, did I
Yeah, yeah,
mispronounce that? Here I am trying to do it
yeah, yeah,
phonetically.
yeah.
And then and
Which, by the way, Gwen is like Smith in Vietnam. There's,
oh,
25 million people with that last name in Vietnam.
okay.
Yeah,
So Dustin Smith, in a way.
yeah. Basically.
And then so you worked on him with, from what I could tell, two films.
Two films. Yes,
Yeah, so Angels and Once Upon a Time in Vietnam.
yes.
And then you have Mark, and I want to make sure I'm pronouncing his name correctly. De Kakos.
The Cascas. Yes,
Yeah.
Mark. Yeah, he's been around forever. He's
Oh yeah.
super solid. Yeah,
Yeah, I used to watch a lot of
yeah,
his stuff
yeah,
when it came out, Crying
yeah,
Freeman and stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So
Great guy.
in one of the behind the scenes, it's funny as he tries to pronounce your full last name, and you can see him go, did I get it right this time? Did I do it right? Um, so even though he's worked with you twice, he's still trying to pronounce it correctly.
He's worked with me three times.
Oh, what was the third?
The first one, the way I met him, was a movie called The Lost Medallion, And
Oh, that's the yeah,
it
like
was
the
actually it was actually the first movie that Chaos Entertainment made here in Thailand. It was someone else's movie. We provided the production services on it. So I was like the local producer, and I did all the second unit for them. And that's where I went. That's where I met Mark. That was in 2008 or nine, but I don't think the movie was released until like 5, 6 years later.
okay.
And that was the first time I met him. Yes, and we've
Oh,
remained
nice.
friends since. Yes,
Perfect. Okay, so three times. Gary Daniels, of course.
yes, yes.
Two films, or am I missing anything?
I worked with Gary on one, two, three, four movies.
Oh, wow. Okay, so I
Yes.
know.
Oh, wait, sorry, five movies.
Oh, okay, so I know Tekken 2
Yes,
and Angels. So what other
Angels.
ones?
Um, there were three faith-based movies that were the first three that I met him on.
I got two of them right here, actually. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I produced it and I was at the DP on all of them. I didn't direct any of them. It was Encounters one and two was where I met him, and then not Encounter, sorry, The Mark one and two, and then Encounters was the third one. Yes, Encounters two was the third one. They are um, from a faith-based company, good friend of mine, Michael Scott, his company, and they're the same company that made God's Not Dead, which was a massive hit in America, like did like 60, 70
Oh,
million
yeah, that's
dollars.
the Pureflix
Pureflix,
with
yeah.
yeah,
Mike
yeah.
Scott, my friend, owns Pureflix. He
Oh,
has
okay.
partners, but he's one of the main partners. So we made three of his movies, and Gary Daniels was in all three. And then so
Okay.
after those three, Tekken 2 was the next one, and then Angels.
Okay. And then with Mark, I forgot to mentions his. So he was One Night in Bangkok, and then
Yes,
he was also the driver.
yes,
And
yes.
I definitely have some questions about the driver and
Sure.
Dead Earth when we get to them.
Yes,
So
sure.
and then now maybe I'm mispronouncing this person's name too. Kane, is it Kashugi?
Kosugi.
Okay,
Kane
almost got
Kosugi.
that.
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
three movies with him, and he's a big guy. He's been in a ton of movies.
Kane. I met him on Tekken 2. And then he showed up. He came to be at the end of the driver one night, and the action guy, which has not been released yet, which was Kane's movie that I made for him with him, and then bang. So Kane is there's been a few, and I have like three other movies I want to do with Kane. So like like I love Kane. Kane's one of my best friends.
Oh, great. Yeah,
Yeah.
you let me watch as you mentioned Angels, which has not Angels has not been released, but it
Nope,
was
no one has seen it. Yes,
re-edited and all that type of stuff to
yeah,
like they cut out
zero
something like
tolerance.
23 minutes, yeah, to zero tolerance. And oddly, that was the first one I watched,
Yes.
not including Ballistic, but
Hmm.
that was the first one in my marathon. And
Hmm.
then I watched Angels last night. So that was my last
Hmm.
one. So I kind of bookended it with those. And yeah, it's Angels is, I mean, I guess, well, let's talk about your first film. Let's, because
Ah,
that's the one that got you known in, so is it Fa?
ah,
F-A-H? I
yes.
got that right.
Yeah.
Um, Highest budgeted movie, and it
Not
was a huge
really.
hit.
It was
Oh,
a huge hit. It wasn't the highest budgeted movie, but it was at a time where Thai cinema was dying. The year I made Fa, only 8 movies were being made in Thailand. We had gone from like the Thai cinema history at that time was over 100 years old. We were one of the first people to make movies in the region, and it went through its heyday with peak, in the 80s and 90s, riding the Hong Kong wave. A lot of Thai movies jumped on that wagon. And then by the time I did FA, the Thai theatrical industry was dying. There was only 8 movies made, and as a 24-year-old that year, I had the highest budget movie of the year. It wasn't anywhere near all time. I mean, the budget was like, in today's money would be like just under $1 million, which was
Oh,
very big, which was very big at that time for Thailand, especially. So no question, like no question. And I got lucky, and it did really well. And yeah, and so like with that, after I'd done that movie, I didn't. My plan was not I'm going to Hollywood. After I'd done that movie, my plan was I have this movie now. I want to go to either USC or UCLA, and I'm just gonna show up at admissions, fill out the paperwork, give them a VHS at the time copy of my movie, and say this was a theatrical movie in Thailand. It's one of the highest grossing films of the year, as sort of my you know and obviously I already had an undergraduate degree from Emerson College in Boston, right? So I wanted to do my master's. That was a plan. So I took one copy of the movie with me to LA, and turned that into 20 copies on Ventura Boulevard somewhere. There was a video store that you could do this, for like $10 a pop, and so I paid $200, got 20 copies, and yeah. So then, like, sort of my career started from there. Like, I had met this second unit director, stuntman, Philip Tan in Thailand while I was, finishing FA. And, he was sort of like, when if you ever come to LA, give me a call. So I landed in LA, gave him a call, and I still planned on going to, like, go to school. But Philip liked the movie, and, asked for the copies, and he passed it around to certain everybody he knew. And and then I met through that I met Chris Lee, who produced Ballistic. And with Chris Lee, he introduced me to Robert Newman, who was an agent at ICM. He watched the movie, liked it too, and that's really how my career got started properly in Hollywood, because I found a manager producer who introduced me to an agent, and then once I got the agent, everything just snowballed. So that was far.
okay. So my information, of course, came from my IMDb, and as you said, don't believe IMDb. But it almost matches what you
Yeah,
had said,
yeah.
and that was, according to IMDb, 1998, and then Ballistic would be 2002. Does
Yes,
that
we
sound
made it
right?
in 2001. Yeah, like we
Came out in
started making it,
2002.
and then it came out 2022. That is correct.
And that film now is FAW available? Because I tried to find that one and I couldn't find
I
it.
don't think it is. It will be soon. I have it's in the negative is at the Thai Film Archive, and I've already contacted them. They never made a DVD of it or anything. So and with today's technology, like I've already talked to the post house that I use here a lot. They used to be Technicolor. They're called G2D. They do most of all my movies, and where I've already talked to them. So at some point this year, I'm going to go get the negative from the Thai Film Archive, and I'm going to remaster it, and then hopefully it'll be available.
Yeah, because that would be very interesting to watch,
Yes,
to know that this is
yeah,
the film that brought you over
yeah,
to
yeah,
Hollywood, and well, Warner Brothers released Ballistic.
yes,
So I mean, and so yeah, I tried to find, especially with what I read on IMDb, and it
yeah,
was just like, oh, I want to find this, and I just
yeah,
couldn't
yeah.
find it.
Because at the time that like it was sort of like the cutoff years, like Thai movies weren't being made into DVDs or anything, really at that point in time yet. So it was one of those things where it just never happened. And it just time passed. And so it's not available on. It was available on VCD here locally and on like VHS and everything, but it never made it onto DVD.
And who were the you mentioned three big actors that are in the film. Who are they?
They were Thai actors, Pinok Chachai, Bijana, and like the way I had two older actors. They were sort of like the De Niro and Pacino of Thailand, and then a young guy, a young kid, who was roughly my age at the time. He was like a year or two younger, and he was a rising star, American, Thai American. He was a practitioner in Taekwondo, competed, and Don Tiratada. He goes by Don Tai now. Today he works in stunts very well. He's with, I believe he's with 8711. So like the John Wick movies and everything like that, and a lot more, like a lot of big movies like he's doing. He also worked a lot. He worked a lot recently with like Jackie Chan and everything. For 20 years, like he's part of the Jackie Chan stunt team and everything.
Oh,
But I
nice.
think today he's with 8711. So he was like the young kid in the movie, and we had like two of the most established actors in Thailand. So I was lucky. I was lucky. I had a very strong cast, straight out of the bat, and learned a lot from all three of them. Learned through trial and error with the young guy, because it was his first movie too, and learned a lot about actors with the two older experienced guys, and they treated me very well. And like when you're 24, 25, I mean, I turned 25 on set. So like I was super young. I got really lucky that like first time out, in my professional career, I was the director, and my producer was the same age as me. She, my AD was my friend in high school, and like none of us really knew how to make a movie. But the studio in Thailand that I did the movie with, they were a TV studio. They'd never done a movie too, so they didn't know how to make a movie either. But they're one of the biggest television. It would be like working with CBS in America, and had CBS never done a feature, and so they just like gave us the money and left us alone. And so like it was it was a phenomenal uh experience, very educational. I made so many mistakes that is in the movie, but at the time, I didn't think they were mistakes. The biggest problem with that movie, like, and this is straight up, I'm very, very proud of what we achieved, what I achieved, my crew achieved as a unit, as a director. Like as a director, I'm really proud of that movie. Where that movie completely fails is the writer. The script sucked. Like the script was all over the place, and I wrote it, so like I take full blame, right? But like, and when I did that movie, as a kid, like my three biggest influences were John Woo from an early age, right? Like I was watching John Woo movies before anyone in America knew who John Woo was, because like I'm Thai. Like I watched his movies when they were first run movies in theaters, right? So like The Killer, how all of that.
Oh,
And
good
then,
stuff.
and also, like A Better Tomorrow was the first one that I saw. That was John Woo, and Michael Mann, right? Loved like everything Michael Mann had done. Thief, like everything, like The Gate, The Keeper, The Gate, what his early horror movie, like all of them, right? And then of course Miami Vice, which was a big part of my childhood, So when he made, from the director, of Miami Vice, like it was just and to this very day, I still think Michael Mann is one of the greatest filmmakers we've ever had.
Oh yeah.
I haven't liked some of his recent movies, but that's neither here or there. It doesn't take away from what he's done and accomplished. And so he was a massive influence on me. And then obviously the newest person, the latest one that I was, in college was following and just loved absolutely was Michael Bay. Right. So like
That is funny that
so
you say that. Yeah,
yeah,
that's I've
and
been Michael
I,
Bay obsessed lately. So
the
yeah.
Bad Boys was like, I still remember where I was when I saw Bad Boys. I was in Boston, when we went to a theater in Somerville, and with Dana, my friend, and it was like the first time I saw Bad Boys. It was a religious experience for me. I had never seen an action movie that looked that way, that sounded that way, that felt that way. I mean, like I've seen a lot of action movies, and like I love Tony Scott and everything he'd done, and it was very similar, very Jerry Bruckheimer, like Simpson Bruckheimer vein, but there was just something so different about Bad Boys. I mean, with the cast too, like I'd never seen that, Will Smith, Martin Lawrence, and the movie was funny, but they didn't like Martin Smith, Martin Will, they weren't the sidekick funny man. You know what I mean? Like even if you go back to Eddie Murphy and 48 Hours, as cool as he was and as great as that movie was, he was always like almost like the Joker. He was a headliner, right? But I mean, Nick Nolte was a straight, like serious cop.
Yeah.
And Eddie, and then like even when you got to Beverly Hills Cop, like every minute it was like it was all comedy, like it was fun and games and fun, like, but I'd never seen like two black actors and they were so cool, and just like it was a cop movie, but like there was no white partner, like it was like, and it looked like it just, I'd never seen a movie that looked like that, right? So, and that's why so coming back to Fa, I was all over the place when I was writing it. I'm like, it's gonna be fucking Heat. It's gonna be Bad Boys. It's gonna be like the slow mo of John Woo.
Oops.
Are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay, yeah,
I
I can
don't
hear
know
you.
what
So I
happened.
can't see you. I can't see you, but okay,
There we
there you
go.
are.
Wow, that's weird.
Yeah.
Okay, something just
So
glitched. Sorry.
I so the script sucked, right? But as a 24-year-old writing my first full screenplay that wasn't for college, and everything, like, and I went to I fucking went to film school. I have a BFA in film, and I've got a fucking like a writing minor. Like I knew my shit. Like I knew what I was doing. So I didn't listen to anybody. Right? I'm like, people trying to give me notes. I'm like, no, this is, like, and that was where I failed because the script sucked. But I mean, as if your first movie is when you're 24 years old, like I'm super proud of it. Like with all its flaws and everything, and as we were saying before, at the beginning of this, sort of it's like I have been fortunate enough now where I've had a career that is 26 years long and hopefully still going, and it all started with that movie. So
Well,
there you
now
go.
you mentioned going to school. Wouldn't FOB be your school? Wasn't that your film school?
Well, no, because I was, I mean, for my first movie, and it was definitely my real world, real time film school for sure. Like I actually went to film school, like for fucking what 4 years, at Emerson College in Boston, and it was a great school. But I only went to school for one reason: was access to equipment. There was no other way in early 90s. I mean, I graduated high school in 1991, right? As I sit here and talk to you, I'm 50 years old. So, like, if you're 17 years old and you want to be a filmmaker back then, unless you were a millionaire, you like there were no iPhones. There were not even
Right.
like there were no like camcorders didn't even properly exist. You had these giant video cameras that would weigh like 80 pounds. To get like
Like
it just
on your shoulder
yeah,
there.
it just wasn't practical. Like it was like the only way you were ever going to shoot film or anything was you had to go to school. Otherwise, you can't get the equipment. So I went to film school with the sole purpose of having access to equipment. I did the bare minimum in the classes or whatever that I needed to. And I spent 80% of my time playing around with film stock and film camera. Like I would, there's Boston is a river city, it's a shoreline city, the beautiful, the Charles River, I would spend all 4 seasons at certain mornings until night shooting the water and the sky in the same frame at different exposure at different light, just learning about and we were lucky where everything was still filmed, so like you couldn't point at an SLR today, camera, and everything is automatically like corrected and adjusted, and there was no color correction the way it is today, where everything is simple. So I had to, learn, how light and film and exposure, how they all react to each other, because it was all chemical reaction, right? I mean, that's where the craft comes from. And the only way to do that was in film school. And so I went. Yeah.
Yeah, I went to two community colleges. I went
Uh-huh.
to College of Marin in Northern California, and then Los Angeles City College in
Hmm.
Southern. And you're right, because that's how you got the film equipment. You made some
Yeah.
connections, you learned some things. And I do laugh when young people, 20s, maybe even 30s, will be talking about, oh my God, it's digital is so hard. Oh, you have and it's like, really? Have you ever stuck a camera in a bag and have to make sure there's no light getting in and undo the camera and put the film reels in? And if there was one little piece of light that got in, your entire day was exposed.
Well,
Or
my favorite story for myself is I was changing film in the, like you said, in a film bag in the dead of winter, right? I mean, it's like frozen ground, snow, like, 4 feet of snow everywhere, outdoors, and you take off your gloves and you put it in. And I was changing a magazine, and I took out my hand, and my hand was bleeding profusely because I had cut myself while I
oh
was
no.
changing the mag on the film, and I can't feel it because it's so cold. I ruined everything, like the whole film, like it's all I had blood all over it, so it was useless. Then we had to redo everything. But like,
Oh,
yeah, like that was the reality of it, because like you're changing a film mag in like -5 with like -15 wind chill or whatever it was, like it is it's yeah. But I also think that like every generation with the technology that changes and everything, there are different challenges. So
yeah, yeah.
with technology being better and better, you solve problems, right? Like you and I never had to like, oh no, we can't go anywhere because our horse is sick,
Right.
because we have cars, like it's
Yeah,
like it's
so
just
talking to somebody back then who would know cars would react like me, going, "Oh, boo hoo, your car broke down.
exactly,
Boo hoo,
exactly.
my horse died." It's like
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah. So it's the same
it's
thing.
all
Like
perspective,
it.
I guess.
Like even today, like I don't even know how to like if I was starting today with all the equipment out there, what do you study? Like which camera do you like? Like it's like what do you like? There's just so many options. It's just like the cameras change every 3 months. The software on it, or like Alexa comes out with a new camera. 3 months later, Red comes out with another one. 3 months later, Sony comes out, and then another. So 1 year from the time the Alexa comes out, the new Alexa comes out again, because in 1 year, and like it's like the technology just keeps changing so fast. Like it's so fast. Like I'm fortunate now where I'm at a point in my life. I shoot my own movies. I
Yes,
DP
you do.
for other
Yeah.
people, and I DP for other people. And I'll tell you the truth. It's I don't even know how to turn on the camera. Whether I shoot, like I've shot with the Alexa 35 for all my last 2 3 movies. I love them. I've shot on all the Alexas, all the Reds that have come out. Uh, um, and the honest truth is, I don't know how, because I have people who do that. I have a camera team, right? Everything's set up. Like I'm blessed enough where I'm at a position now where like I just tell people, and then it happens. I walk up to the camera, everything's set. It's set to the exposure I want. It's set to everything I want. I have a gaffer I've been working with for 15 years. So even though I'm the DP, I have not touched a light meter in over a decade because I don't need to anymore. Like because like the screens, like the monitors are so good where you can look at them now and just like you can see it. You like before when I started, you couldn't. You had to take a light meter, a light reading on everything, because the monitors were useless. Like they were just this black and white shit that like you could barely see focus on it. But now at like today you can like do real time adjustments and everything, and like you can create LUTs to create the exact look you want at the how your movie wants to come out, and you can shoot it at like 95 to 98% of what it's actually going to be. and you can literally just see it. Um, there's a good and there's a bad. The good is if you've had the training, if you know how film reacts and everything, and training, it makes everything easy, right? But you still know how to get the look you want, right? The bad is that now so many people don't have the training or everything, right? But they can still do the job or think they can do the job because everything is easy and it's sort of automated, right? And then I found like because I train up a lot of people, like, students or whatever, young, like just straight out of college people, and we train them up. And I see it, through the training process. Most of them, it's like they can do it, it's fine until they run into a problem. When they run into problems, it's very hard for them to solve the problem because they don't understand the math, the chemistry behind, how to, like, when something does, so there's a pros and the cons to the technology. If like technology is great, but you need to do the work to get full use of technology in any walk of life, but especially in
Yeah.
film today, it's like it's so easy for people to to be good at their jobs without understanding their job, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, because I've seen people do great jobs just shooting a movie on their phone, and then I've seen them do horrible jobs when they use Red.
Yeah.
So it's like, because I don't think people go to school or anything. Because that's, and I was going to ask, so how do you go between directing and being a DP, a director of photography?
Well,
how does that work?
I prefer to be a DP for the simple reason that you deal with less bullshit, right? So I love being on set. By being a DP, um, I get to do what I love. I get to collaborate with the actor, with the director. That's the only person added into the equation when I'm a DP. I'm now working for a director. So it's his or her vision, right? So there's communication and collaboration, compromise, negotiation that is not there for me when I direct, right? But when I direct, let's say an actor has a bad day, unrelated to the movie, and the actor is like doesn't feel like shooting. That's my problem as a director. I
Right.
now have to go into the actor's trailer. I may have to be on the phone with the actor's representative or whatever. If I'm the DP and that happens, I go back to my trailer. I watch Netflix. It's not my problem.
Right, right. Well, yeah, I
So
was told by a friend of mine 50% of filmmaking is problem solving.
it shouldn't be. I
No.
understand it, and the majority of the time it is, but it shouldn't be. If that's the case, and it's gonna sound so bad, but after 26 years, it's my absolute truth. If 50% of the time on set is solving problems for you, then you need a better crew. If you have a good crew, you have less problems.
Oh, definitely. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. So, yeah, yeah, that's true. So it's, yeah, it can be. Is that your dog?
that's my dog. Cat walk
Nice.
somewhere outside. Yeah.
Always pet friendly here. So, I have shown, I showed these to you before we came on, but I just want to show people this was my homework to interview you. Were all of these movies, and they are in some sort of order. And I do like to purchase the films of the person that I'm interviewing, like I said, to show respect for them instead of just free.
Yeah.
I know we get paid for streaming and stuff like that, but it's always nice to own the physical copy. So,
That is very cool. You actually own more movies than I do of human work.
I've been told that by multiple people that I've interviewed that I have, that they don't, sometimes they don't even own the movie we're talking about.
Yeah.
So you came to Hollywood,
Hold
you got the job directing Ballistic. So how did this come up? And I told you before we started that I did a review for this on
Yeah.
my review show called Reviews After Midnight, and it's on Indie Film Cafe. It will be out next month. And I gave
Mhm.
it 5 stars. And now, yeah, and you laughed then and you laughed now. And I asked you about this at the beginning. Is there anything you don't want to
I
talk
wouldn't give
about?
it 5 stars.
Well, and now this is on IMDb. It says
Yeah.
that it is voted as the, not the worst movie ever made.
Yeah.
And
Which is a bit
I
harsh. That's a
I
bit too far.
completely disagree with that.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I
that's
mean,
a bit
but
too
they've
far.
also said Plan 9 from Outer Space is the worst movie ever made, and I disagree with that one too, because there's huge budget
It's
movies that are worse than
well,
both of
it
these.
was at the beginning of like Rotten Tomatoes and the whole internet movement, right? And it was so like it's like and they average so it's like it's got a 0 and all that stuff. So it's sort of like lived on, because of that, But it's I objectively speaking, that version of the movie, it's well, first of all, it's not my movie. Like I had no part in the edit of it. But even having said that, it's like it's not great. It's it'd be fair to say it's bad because the story doesn't work. The characters aren't really there. Um, it's shot well. I think the action is good. So it's
Action's great.
and yeah. So to me, it's like it's okay. Objectively speaking, like it could be like I really wish I had a chance. The thing that hurts me most about Ballistic is that I'm really proud of making the movie. I had a great time. I had a fantastic crew, the best crew I could have hoped for my first movie in Hollywood. I had a decent budget, 35 million. It's not 70, it's 35 million, and 16 below the line. I was a producer on it. I know the exact numbers. I still have the files. so, I'm really proud of what we achieved. But it went pear shaped in post when I had contracted Trevor Rabin, who, if you look him up, phenomenal composer, right? Had done like all these great movies. Trevor Rabin, he was my composer on the movie, and he was the first to be fired from the movie. As I was going up to editorial, I get a call from Trevor, and he's like, "What just happened? Why did you fire me?" And I did not fire him, but the movie was being recut, and that was how I found out. And they brought on another great composer, Don Davis, who did The Matrix and everything. So I'm not knocking
Yeah,
Don Davis,
I like his stuff. Yeah.
but it wasn't supposed to be an electronic score, first of all, right? And then when they recut the movie completely, it's like they recut it so much where some of the action scenes it didn't work, so they had to flip shots and everything like that. Whereas when we shot the movie, it was very, very well planned out, very well thought out. Like it was like everything made sense, but to go back a little bit, even in the writing stages, before the movie was officially, we had a green light, but we had studio notes. So what attracted me to Ecks versus Sever, when I had it was it was an action movie where there were no stakes. It was a revenge movie. It was a character driven movie where everything Sever wanted to do was motivated by her need for revenge, and I mean today every action movie is revenge, right? But
Yeah.
you have to remember in the 90s and everything, in the 90s, it wasn't revenge. Like, movies like Speed, in the 80s, Under Siege, whatever, like all these great action movies, Executive Decision, any like the Lethal Weapon movies or whatever, Die Hard movies, they were not revenge based, right? I mean, there was a time before if you were going to make an action movie, it had to be revenge, right? I mean, today that's what it is, but back then, so that revenge was new. in a mainstream movie, the idea of your protagonist, doing everything solely on revenge was a novelty. It was not commonplace. There was no John Wick. There was no, so that appealed to me. And then in the process of developing it with Franchise Pictures and Warner Brothers, one of the biggest studio note was there are no stakes. And I didn't know how to do it. And Peter Lenkov, who was hired by the studio, who's a really good friend now, and Bang is written by Peter Lenkov, and that's how I met him. He came up with, it wasn't his idea, it was sort of like a studio idea, but he kind of made it work. Was introducing like the nanobots, the nanotechnology and everything, and I'm not a tech guy by any stretch of the imagination, so I didn't really understand it. But by that point, I was in too deep with this movie. It's like I have to make this movie. If I don't make this movie, even though I'm not buying this nanobot idea, I don't know how long it'll take for me, because I've never done a movie in Hollywood, and like this was my Hollywood break. So, I went with it, to the extent where, and this taught me a big lesson. When we were looking at the CG presentation for the nanobots, because I was so against the idea of this nanobot in the kid, I just Alan McElroy, who wrote the screenplay, who's a very good friend of mine too. The thing that grabbed me was the image of an 8-year-old boy sitting in a glass box. He was trapped in a glass box, where Sever had him on a glass box that was on a plate, on a pressure plate, with what was it, like 50 pounds of C4 attached to it. That's not in the movie, but in the script, that was the movie. And honestly, when I read the movie, instantly, my first reaction, my first pitch, where I was like, I want to make this movie, and I want to make it with Chow Yun-fat and Jean Reno as Ecks and Sever. That was what I wanted. I wanted the killer versus the professional.
Yeah.
That was the movie I wanted to make. Franchise Pictures didn't go for it. We went through like almost a year of casting. And the casting process was fun because I got to meet so many like icons, heroes of mine, right? There was one very early version, and I got to meet Sylvester Stallone. And he was doing Driven for Franchise Pictures, and I sat down with him. It was a geek out moment for me. It was just the two of us, and he was gonna be Ecks. And once we had Stallone in as Ecks, the next person I met, who was going to be Sever, who I kind of pitched, and I met with him, and got to know him really well, was Vin Diesel, who had not done Fast and the Furious yet, but who had done Pitch Black. And it was going to be Sly and Vin. That was the first take, if you will, official take from the where everything was signed off. And then, like, I think Stallone, in doing, because he had done a couple of pictures with Franchise Pictures, but then I think they fell out on Driven. Was it Driven or Get Carter? I don't remember which one it was. So Stallone was out, and then we went through a lot of people before we were lucky enough to get Antonio, right? And it was Antonio's idea. Well, it wasn't no, Lucy Liu was Antonio's idea, but in the process of casting, when I knew we had a shot at Antonio, I thought about, what if we just made Sever a woman, right? And not change anything, just made her a woman, and there's a Hong Kong actress that I loved. We reached out to. She didn't want to do it, and then at the time, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon had just come out, so the studio and everything wanted Michelle Yeoh. That didn't work out, and then Antonio suggested Lucy Liu because he had just done a movie with her, and it just so happened that I was represented. My agent was the same agent as Lucy. So I got to meet her really quickly, and that's how it came to be. Now, how I got the script X versus Sever was that Alan was shopping it around to different places, and Chris Lee, one of the production companies, got a hold of the script, and I loved it. You know, Chris gave me the script, and I read this title X versus Sever, and I'm like, I don't think I'm ready to do a courtroom drama because I'm from the generation of Kramer versus Kramer. It was just it just read like the title read like a courtroom drama, but then I read it and it was just it was all out action. It was great characters, and I said there were no stakes. It was all revenge, and I love that. There was no bomb on a bus. There was no so the stakes were very small and very personal. And then of course that changed. So then we reached out to Alan, and I sent him Fa. I sent Alan Fa, and he watched it. And then he called me. Um, 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 and he said, I loved your movie, and he's like, you're the perfect guy. And to Alan's credit, he had big producers wanting to make that movie, wanting to buy the script and make that movie. But he gave it to us on a free option. So we could put it together, and we did. And Chris took it to Franchise Pictures, which then agreed to make it. Blah 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 blah. So that's how everything came to be. And that's how I got the movie. And there were a couple of other movies at the time that I was offered, big ones, but because what Alan had done, and so I had committed to making Ecks versus Sever as my first movie, and then Ballistic came about afterwards. Once the movie was done, and I was already like, I had no part in the post, but during the marketing meeting, they were like, we can't call this movie Ecks versus Sever. We need something else. So I suggested Ballistic because Bullet is one of my favorite movies, and I know Bullet is a Warner Brothers. So I was like Bullet,
Oh,
and
okay.
I was like, how about Ballistic, right? Because I just thought one title, one word, Ballistic. They loved Ballistic, but then they ended up calling Ballistic Ecks versus Sever, which I have no idea why. I'm like, just call it Ballistic. Like, if you don't like Ecks, like, I love Ecks versus Sever. If you don't like Ecks versus Sever and you want to call it something else, just call it Ballistic. But then they went Ballistic Ecks versus Sever. So,
I as an outsider, and I don't know. To me, this is I don't know. There's a 13-minute behind the scenes on this, which I love. I mean, yeah, you got Antonio Banderas, Lucy Liu, and Ray Park.
yeah,
Ray Park, come
yeah,
on, that's
yeah,
right there, and he plays one of the bad guys,
yeah,
and he's got a great fight scene with
yeah.
Lucy Liu, and it's I don't know, I think that they're perfectly cast. I think I prefer
I
a
mean, we
man
had
and
a great
woman.
cast.
Yeah,
We had Greg
it's
Henry as the bad guy, like the main villain, and Greg Henry is such a great actor,
yeah, he is.
and even Miguel Sandoval, who came in as the FBI, guy, like in Miguel Sandoval, if you look at like he's an incredible actor as well, like we had a really, really good, really good cast. And uh um Talisa, who played the wife, who played Antonia's wife, she's was married to Benjamin Bratt at the time. So like he was always on set, he came to visit. Like it was a blast making the movie. Post was hell for me, but it was a blast making the movie. And then, it's really difficult and it really affected me because when the movie was done, it's not my version of the movie. And even when I was grading it, color timing it with Julio, my DP, um, it was the first time I saw the movie cut together. But back then when you're grading on 35 millimeter, there was no sound. So I didn't hear the music, I didn't hear anything. Like the movie went out, hand on heart. I had never seen the movie completed by the time when we went to the premiere, uh, like I was hyperventilating in the cinema at the premiere because I'm like, what? Like I was seeing the movie for the first time, and it was nothing like like it was like and it really affected me. Like I didn't do I said no to every by that time I was at CAA, and all the way up to the release of the movie, and a year after the release of the movie, Like CAA, they worked hard for me. They got me 6 offers, to do other movies and everything. And I didn't listen. This is where the age becomes a factor. I was young, so it really affected me personally on a very, very emotional and personal level because like all most of these other movies that we're going to be talking about, if you don't like them, I have no problems with that. Like I can stand by it or whatever. But this was a movie, my big, wide, worldwide release, and it wasn't my movie. So I was agreeing with a lot of the negative criticism, and everything. But the shitty thing was like everyone was like blaming me for it. And yes, my name's on the movie, and it's like uh but it's not my movie. It's not my cut. Like I only recently watched this movie from beginning to end, all the way through, maybe 5 years ago,
Oh wow.
because I was over it.
That's
After 15,
how long it
after,
took.
after 17 years, I was over it, and then I could appreciate it or whatever, blah 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 blah.
But your
But
name stands
genuinely,
out though. Your name
yeah,
is if it was just Bob Smith, or something, they probably wouldn't. But because it's directed by Chaos, who's this
yeah, I know,
Chaos guy?
yeah,
What
yeah.
does he think he's doing? He's
You know
got
what's so
that.
funny too about my name is that in my early days in Hollywood, when I would go into these meet and greets, or when I would get offers, or when I went to pitch in to at production offices, whether it be Bruckheimers or Fox or whatever, whoever I've met for the first time, two things were always consistent because they know the name, right? You go in there like they're meeting Chaos. Then they meet me, and I'm like this tiny little Asian guy, right? And they're like, "You're Asian?" Like they always pictured me as like this big guy. I've had so many comments where like they actually, as we got, the meeting went on, they all genuinely thought, also I was black. I'm
Ah.
not. So, and then because of the name, and then the second thing that they always bring up in these meetings is, uh, you know, I guess I don't know why, but like, I'm Asian, and it's like someone always makes a comment of like, you speak English really well. I'm like, I'd like to think so. Like I've been speaking it since, that was
That's
basically
a
my
little
first language.
racist. Okay. All right. Okay.
But it's funny. It's just a funny kind of thing where it's
Yeah.
just, yeah,
It,
the
it,
name's
it
misleading.
yeah, and it's I really, and then we'll go on to the next film because there's plenty here, and I don't want to keep you here for 6 hours, and we're going to be skipping movies because then you'll be here for 10 hours. Uh,
Yeah,
uh, but I think people really need to give this a second chance. I do. I understand your point of view because you made the movie. It made up. You may not consider it your movie, but
mhm.
but it's I think it's got great action. I think it's a ton of. I mean, Antonio Banderas riding half a bus down the street is pretty awesome. The guy who has the rocket launcher and the camera follows him straight down to the impact of a car, where you say on the behind the scenes that normally the car would explode before he hits the car. You wanted the
Yeah,
car to explode when he hits it. I mean,
yeah,
this is detail. And the action scenes are great. It's 91 minutes, so it's never boring. I
yeah,
like A Mother's Revenge. I
yeah.
like the whole thing with his wife. I don't want to give too much away with it because there are some
Yeah.
twists. And Ray Park is great. All the acting, I just, people need to give this a second try. And I go into a lot more detail. I think it's a 40-minute review of this.
Oh, great!
Is
I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to that.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'll send you the link to it.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's I just, and even with this, there's a game. You can either be Ecks or Sever. It's really old
And a
because it's
lot and a lot of people
2008.
mistake, they think this movie is based on the game, but the game is actually based on the movie.
There's
The
two
movie came out
games.
first. Yeah, and the movie
Yeah.
came out first, and then they wanted to make a game. Like I don't know why.
Yeah, so it's crazy to me. So I don't know. They must have had some sort of like, oh, this is going to do big, because we got these two games planned,
Yeah.
and it's like I don't know. People they need to just know fun, good popcorn action. You can
And that's
understand
what
this
it
from
is.
beginning to end.
Yeah, even from the beginning, from the get-go, even my version of it was like, it was never meant to be anything more than a fun action movie.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I would love to see a Blu-ray. I would love 4K, but I mean, I'll take a Blu-ray, throw in some audio commentary for me, and I'm happy. But for right now, it's DVD. So,
yeah,
but after
thank you.
this, you went back home,
Yeah,
and that's when we get into this other set of films.
yeah,
So, which we'll try to go through these quickly because, like I said, I don't want to
yeah,
keep you forever.
yeah.
You did Tekken 2, and I did watch Tekken before this. I didn't realize at the time this was a prequel. So I'm actually glad I did watch Tekken and then watch this one.
I'll give you the full story, very short, as brief as I can on Tekken, which is everything you need to know. When we were shooting Steve Tekken, the producer came to me. I was supposed to be the DP, not the director. And then he changed his mind. I don't know what happened with the director. He came back. He's like, all right, wait, I want you to direct it. I read the script. It was not a good script. And I was like, sure, I'll direct it, but you can't put my name on it. Hand on heart. We had a contract that said that,
An Alan Smithy
right?
thing. Okay.
He could put whatever name. I've done a few movies where it's not my name on it from the get-go. And I'll tell you why. I live in Thailand, right? I live in Thailand. I don't have a lot of choices. I'm not getting like, before, especially early days, it's like, so this is my career, right? So like, if I don't make a movie, I don't eat. I don't do anything else. I don't have a side hustle. So, you know, I would love to work on movies I want to make every time.
Sure.
That doesn't happen.
Right.
So when people come, from the States, because like local movies, I can't make a living doing this, right? I can't have what I have if I'm working locally. So I do it. I do a lot of jobs for the money because I have to. I don't have choices. I'm not these big filmmakers that can do whatever they want. So a certain movie comes, if the script is bad, but they're paying me my fee up front, I'll say, I'll do them. You can't use my name, and they're fine. And Tekken was the only movie where, after having signed the contract, uh, the producer used my name anyways. And when I called him on it, and I said, "Hey, dude, what's up? I thought we had an agreement." He's like, "Don't worry about it." It's like, no, like we had an agreement. So his response to me was, "Well, come sue me." So I was like, "Well, fuck it," Like I mean, like there's nothing you can do. And to top it off, when we were shooting the movie, it wasn't Tekken. He was gonna try get the license, and to make it Tekken after, it was, I forgot the original name. The only reason why aside from the money, I did it was because he told me he was gonna go get Kane Kusugi. And Kane is roughly my age. And growing up, Revenge of the Ninja is one of my favorite ninja movie. It's the best ninja movie. And
Oh, love
Revenge of the
Revenge. Yeah.
Ninja, Sho Kusugi is the star. He's Kane's father. Kane, as a 6-year-old, was in that movie. It was the first movie he was in, and he played, Sho's son. So Kane has been practicing martial arts since 2 years old. So like when he said Kane Kusugi, I knew exactly who he was because he was Sho Kusugi's son. And I saw him. He was a little ninja, in Revenge of the Ninja, and he was so bad. And he did many movies after that with his father. So I wanted to work with Kane. So that was a big thing. But it was never supposed to be a movie I directed.
And with, yeah, there's behind the scenes, and I'm like, I wonder if that's his son.
It
And yeah,
is.
and it ended up being, yeah, his son. And I noticed on the back here, you're only listed as director of photography. There is no director listed. And I'm like, what? I'm gonna have to ask him, what is that about? There is no directed.
Whoa, well, I didn't know that. Maybe the producer felt bad and then like tried to make up for it after. But yeah,
Yeah, it is not on here. There is no film by. There is
yeah.
nothing with your name on it except for director of photography, and that is it. I'm like, that is really. Did they just forget to print it? Because
Yeah.
that is weird. that
Yeah.
your name is not
Yeah.
on here.
Yeah.
And somebody had mentioned on Facebook, because I post the movies that I
Uh-huh.
buy, and they said, "Oh yeah, the what makes it a prequel was shot later." Is that true? That it was that you
Yes.
have a couple of the
Yes.
characters and then
Well,
that
I didn't do it.
leaves?
They did it in LA after the movie was shot here in Thailand because
Oh,
when we shot it, it was never supposed to be Tekken.
okay.
You know, there was a faint possibility that the producer kept talking about it. So we shot different versions, you know, like just in case it was going to be Tekken. You know, it was, and that movie was like super cheap, super cheap. Like the budget, I shit you not, was like 400 grand.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry,
to make the
screen is
movie, the
glitching.
budget to make the movie, not everything. You know, like to actually make the movie was around 400 grand.
Okay. Well, you seem to shoot a lot practical. I don't
Yes,
see a
yes,
lot of for
yes,
something like this, since it's got that kind of sci-fi edge to it.
yeah,
Yeah, there's
yeah,
the green screen or the
yeah,
models or
yeah.
paintings of the future
So
and stuff
all
like
the
that.
when
But
I say 400 grand, I'm not that like they did that later afterwards. So I don't know how much that cost, but like to shoot it here in Thailand, you know, the actual making of the movie. Yeah, I mean it was an expensive movie.
okay, I mean, I liked it. I enjoyed both films. I plan on buying
The
Tekken
fights
just to
were
go along
great.
with it.
Brahim
So
did the fight. You know, Brahim, he was a fight coordinator, and Kane. So like the fights were great. Like they were like it was phenomenal, right? But the story is like fucking like I don't even know what the story was. Like it was a mess.
I
We tried
appreciate
our
your
best. We did our
honesty.
best. Yeah, you know. I mean, it's true. Like you know, I mean, like I've made 5 or 6 movies where I didn't use my name because the script's so bad.
Now I need to see those movies.
No, you
I
don't.
need a list. When people tell me that I have to see those films that are so bad, I mean it's it's worse or better.
Oh,
If
this
this
is
is
much better.
this is much better than the films that
Yeah,
you don't put. Okay, because
yeah, yeah,
this
yeah,
is still a lie to me. The
yeah,
worst film
yeah, yeah,
that's just a
yeah,
lie.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
okay, now I got to see him. I got to track him down. Um, so actually, the film that you made when you got back home, it wasn't Tekken 2, it was Angels. And then after that came Tekken 2, if I'm reading
Yes, yes, yes,
IMDb correctly. So
yes.
we discussed Angels a little bit, but I watched it originally as Zero
Zero
Tolerance.
tolerance. Yes.
And on IMDb, there's a very long, which, like you said, they probably took it from an article about how
Yeah.
this is, and I'm guessing not including Ballistic, this is the only film that you didn't feel that you had control over. Is that true?
I had more control over zero tolerance.
Oh,
The people I was involved with, you know, like when we did Angels, it was literally well one studio exec that we sent it to, you know, it was like had told me that he liked it he liked the movie better than a very and I'm not going to mention it on that live, but like a very popular action movie. But he was very honest. He's like, I don't know how to sell it. You don't have any stars, you know, with respect. Like I love Gary, I love Dustin, you know, they're my friends, you know, and I think they're great. But from a distribution standpoint, you know, they didn't know how to market the movie. It's very Asian, it's very, you know, and this was, you know, before the big Asian craze that we're going through now. You know, I think it would be very different today with how Korean cinema has taken over the world, you know, but this was, you know, back in like 2011, you know, and so it was like it's an Asian crime drama and they didn't know how to sell it. So, you know, when the investors I was working with, you know, they approached I believe it was Millennium or something, and they floated the idea of like, well, can you put Scott Adkins in it? You
because
know,
he's not in Angels.
no, he's not in Angels.
No, I'm like I looked
Yeah,
at the box and I'm watching
yeah,
Angels, which is almost 2 hours.
yeah,
And I was thinking, man, they could remake this in America. It
yeah,
would kind of be like the Departed type of thing
yeah,
where they would recast with American actors and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I could totally see Angels, not Zero Tolerance, but Angels being done in America today. And
Well,
especially with
I
child
feel that
trafficking and all that.
Angels is a far superior movie to Zero Tolerance.
It is. It is.
You know,
So I'm
it's
glad that I
longer,
watched it.
it's slower, but it's slow by design. Like I'm like it's a slow burn, but I don't think I personally don't think it's boring, and I might be I mean there's no objectivity to it, but so yeah, so when we did Zero Tolerance, when so they approached me, and I actually wrote the scenes with Scott Adkins in it, to try to make it work, and we did our best, and when I saw the end product, I'm like, I'm not happy with it because it's like it's not Angels, but it got the movie bought by Lionsgate, which is big, which is a
Right.
big deal because Lionsgate bought Zero Tolerance, and it was actually the beginning of my relationship with Lionsgate that makes today that everything I'm doing is made possible
Oh,
because of this relationship.
okay.
So Zero Tolerance is a very important movie for me, but again, it wasn't the movie I set out to do.
Yeah, it's very Angels comes off to me more as like a character piece. It's more of a study
Yes,
about these
yes,
fathers. I
yes,
even though Gary Daniels does explain Angels, I kind of took
yes,
it before that
yeah,
the girl who's murdered, her name is Angel, but it's
yeah,
Angels because to
yeah,
every father, their daughter
yeah.
is an angel.
That's exactly it. I'm glad, but that's exactly my, like I said, and I'm not saying this to be humble or anything. Like I do not consider myself a writer, but living in Thailand, I don't have, I don't have a development fund or whatever. So when I have an idea or whatever, more often than not, I end up having to write it myself. And as bad as I was as a writer when I wrote Fa, I feel like I've studied the craft enough now where I feel like I'm really proud of the script Angels. Like I was like I'm really proud of that. Like I'm like I can't believe I wrote that, and I think I believe like I was able to achieve exactly what I wanted to do with the movie, and I knew when I made it, it's like this is not a movie for everyone. Like this is like, like it's not fast, it's not action packed. It's more of a character study than it is an action movie. But we tried to make every time there was action in it, we tried to make it, good, organic, and make sense to the character. Like you
Sure.
would believe these people doing that. You would believe Johnny's able to do these things, and the trade craft and everything. So yeah, I'm very proud of Angels. But
Yeah.
you are one of 5 people who didn't work on the movie who's seen it.
Oh, great. Nice. Thank you. I'm honored. Yeah, I
Yeah.
would love for Angels to come out and have that because this I mean I didn't dislike this or anything. I just know from what you told me and from what I've read that it's a different movie. I mean, this is Zero Tolerance. I mean, that's
Well,
very
you've
much
seen
an
the two
action
movies.
movie.
You know that it's a different movie.
Yeah, I mean,
You
this
can
is
you can
more
see for
action.
yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I could almost see instead of Scott Adkins, it would be Van Damme. Instead of Scott Adkins, it could be Sylvester Stallone. It
Yeah.
could be, insert
Yeah.
action
Yeah.
US guy here.
And don't get me wrong, Scott did a phenomenal job with what
Oh,
he
he's
was
fine.
asked to
Yeah,
do
he's
and
good.
everything. Yeah, like he like it's not his fault. Like my feelings for Zero
Yeah, he's
Tolerance has nothing to do with Scott. It's just had to do with I had a movie and now I have to write in Scott Adkins, right?
right.
Apart from Scott Adkins and piece the movie together, which is super hard to do. It's
It
not
would
like, but
I mean, if you
that's what
could
it came
put
to.
a double disc of just angels and it would almost be like a little kind of like film school in a box,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
this is the film that was originally done, this is what came out, these are the reasons
yeah,
why. I mean,
yeah,
it would be interesting as especially to watch them back to back.
yeah,
So, yeah, so it's I recommend both versions, but of course you can only watch one. So,
yeah.
at least for now. So,
Maybe I'll just put it up on my YouTube channel or something, create a YouTube channel and just like fucking just put it out there.
yeah,
Like
let
who's
people
gonna
watch
sue
it
me?
because it's
Like who's
good.
gonna sue
It's a shame to not let people watch it because it is better,
me?
but it's yeah, it's worth yeah, people need to see it. So it's now these two I'm going to show at the same time.
Yeah.
And uh because I did not real. Okay, I'm going to show one at a time, but we'll talk about both. Okay,
Sure.
the driver.
Yeah.
I thought, because I was trying to avoid, I wanted to be surprised what your stories were. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, it's the transporter. Okay. And then in the first 5 minutes, a guy gets attacked by like 3, 4 zombies. I'm like,
Yeah.
wait, this is a zombie movie? So then I flipped it over and read the back, and I'm like,
Uh-huh.
oh crap, this is a zombie movie. But I'd already seen Dead
Yeah.
Earth.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is why I got in contact with you,
Yeah.
because I'd already owned Ballistic. I
Uh-huh.
bought this because I love zombie movies. And I
Yeah.
was just, oh, well, let's see what zombie movies. Dead Earth, that's a pretty cool cover. Let me
Yeah.
read the back. Oh, it's got two, like, like really good looking girls on it. Let me read the box. Okay. Oh, I'm going to purchase this. Oh, no, I take that back. I saw it on Tubi. I take that back.
Okay.
I saw it on
Okay.
Tubi, loved it, and then said, I need to,
Really?
yeah, and then it's in my, I would say probably within like my top 10 of the best zombie films
Wow.
ever made.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I said, I need to buy this. So I purchased it. And when I'm watching it, I'm like, God, this guy's name for some reason looks really familiar. Like, what is it about this name? And I looked you up and I'm like, wait a minute, Ballistic, Ecks for Server, but that's Chaos. This isn't, wait a minute, his last name. This is the same guy. And so I
Wow.
watched it again, knowing it was you. So I've now seen it
Uh-huh.
3 times. And I'm
Wow.
like, I got to send a message to him to see if I can get an interview with him because I love this film. And it's it's got, like I said, it's a zombie film. It all takes place at a resort with
Uh-huh.
these two girls,
Uh-huh.
and it's basically their day-to-day routines during the zombie apocalypse. And
Yeah.
then we see the occasional zombie pop in and out,
Yeah.
and then the end is when all the chaos happens. And then um and I'm like, okay, this is awesome. I need to, like I said, I need to interview him. And I really like this. The girls are
I'm really
attractive.
glad.
Yeah, we get some nudity, which is okay. We get lots of
Yeah.
zombies. And I love one location movies. And this fulfilled all that. So then, because I was going to watch this near the end of my marathon, that
Mm-hmm.
so I watched this first.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, okay, so watching zombie movie. Okay, great. Things are getting. And then I noticed the DJ. And I'm like, that DJ looks familiar and sounds familiar. And I'm watching. And then all of a sudden, they show up at the end.
Yeah.
So which one came first? They're obviously in the same universe. So are they taking place at the same time?
Yeah, basically. So the Dead Earth comes first. And at the end of Dead Earth, when they hear the panic of the DJ, is the beginning of the driver when you see when the place is overtaken, and that's sort of like, and that's why, the girls are now outside of their resort, and that's how the girl runs into the driver and his daughter, because they don't know where they're going. And it's meant to be, we just haven't done it. It's meant to be a trilogy. And then the third one is at Haven. So you see a little bit of the backstory of Kane, who shows up in the driver at the end, right, to come and save the girls, and it takes them to Haven. So the third one, you would see the beginning of Kane's story and how he created this Haven, right, and then everything was supposed to take place. And the third one was going to be basically my version of a samurai versus zombies in this, like,
Oh,
but the third one was going to be about Kane, and it's and somewhat lone wolf and cub, because it was going to be, like, this place where they're at, and they have to leave now, and Kane, and the daughter from the driver is grown up now, but she's been trained by Kane, and the two girls are older and everything, and I would have had to recast, and yeah, so we have this whole, so the problem the reason why we haven't done it yet, yeah, is quite frankly not a demand for it. But these two movies
I'm demanding it.
are
I'm demanding it right
directly
now.
linked. They're directly linked to zero tolerance. When I said that, because Lionsgate bought Zero Tolerance, right? So that was the beginning of my relationship. And then during that time, there's a movie called Dying of the Light, a Nick Cage movie that came
Yes.
out. So Dying of the Light, the producers of that, one of them I had run across when I had a movie over at Fox back in my day in Hollywood. So that junior executive was now producing, and he had a partner, Scott Clayton. The producer was Todd Williams, but Todd was somebody I knew. They needed an action scene for Dying of the Light in Romania, and so they reached out to me to go do two action sequences for them in the movie Dying of the Light. So I did
Oh,
it with my crew, like a crew of 4 or 5, and we did. I choreographed it and everything. Spoke on the phone with Paul Schrader. I actually didn't go to Romania to shoot the movie because I was shooting Tekken. I couldn't leave. I was gonna leave, but because Kane and I became good friends, I stayed to finish Tekken, and I couldn't go do Dying of the Light. But that was the beginning of my relationship with Scott Clayton, who is now my producing partner. And if you look at all the movies, including Dead Earth and Driver, Scott Clayton is a producer on it, and we've produced 9 movies, 10, whatever it is, together now. So he's good friends with one of the big executives at Grindstone, Barry, and so like when he bought Zero Tolerance, and then I met Scott. He loved what we did action wise for them on Dying of the Light. And then so Scott came to Thailand and we talked, and we decided collectively with my partner here in Thailand too that you know, we need to showcase the that we can make quality production at 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 low cost, efficient, right? So it's like, so we need to just make these movies, right? We can't wait for these movies to come. Like I can't wait for Tekken to come. I can't wait, and then every 10 years I get to make Angels or whatever. We start need to generate our own movies. There has to be a way, but the only way to do that is we need to earn the trust of studios that if you come to Thailand, you let us. So I came up with Dead Earth, and it's everything you said. We're not going to get stars. So what do? Zombie movies, right? I love zombies, but also they're easy. They're like, when you do zombie movies, you are given freedom to not have to explain a lot because the audience are so familiar with the story, right?
yeah.
They're familiar with zombies and everything. It's a genre. It's a very specific genre. And now, of course, by that time, Walking Dead, who I'd always loved as a comic book already, as a graphic novel. I had all of them, and they turned, when AMC made it, it was phenomenal. It was such a great show. It's like, we're never going to do better than that. Right. And we don't have the money to do better. So Dead Earth, I kid you not, we decided to do 2 movies as a test, right? We had an investor. We had already talked to Grindstone about like, okay, we're going to make these 2 movies. This is what they're going to be. And it was like $500,000 for both movies. Like that was sort of like the ballpark that we're talking about I had to make it, so that my investors could make some money back. And then so we made the both movies for $500,000. And I asked Mark, John Wick 3 was coming out, so he was like, like forever. So like
Yeah. He's in John
the
Wick.
studio
Yeah.
liked that, and so with the driver it was more expensive. So and I mean I think it was like 600 something all told, but I shot Dead Earth in 9 days,
Oh, wow.
and we shot the driver in 13 days, and they worked. They're not, I'm not saying they're brilliant or whatever, but it was enough to show the studio that given us resources, it's not a bad idea. Like we know how to, like, we don't go. I've never gone over budget. I've never gone over days, in my career, and it's one of the big reasons why I still have a career. And we're very responsible, and production wise, like for the money that we had, like Dead Earth was made for under 200 grand, shot in 9 days, fully, like everything, all in. That's a pretty good fucking movie. Like most movies you watch
Yeah.
for 200 grand or whatever, you can see that, like, it's super cheap. The production's not quite there. It doesn't look quite right. It doesn't sound quite right. The music's kind of, like, but this was like, it was a movie. It was a proper. Now, you can hate the story because it's slow or whatever, but, the story is designed because of the budget. I knew the budget I would have, so everything was designed that way. And then it was just sort of like, when I did The Driver, we did it all in the same time. So it was like, when we shot, with Mark, the girls were already there, and Dead Earth was created exactly what you said. It was like, two beautiful girls in this story. Like, I would watch this, but because I'm a zombie, like I love zombie movies, I'm like, if I saw this, I would watch this. So that was the whole thinking behind it, and then, like, yeah, people are gonna be like, this is so slow, this is whatever. But, I also believed, and I'm so happy that I'm doing this interview with you, because
Oh,
I
thank you.
always believe there's going to be someone out there like me who would watch this movie and appreciate it for what it was. Like, you'd be like, we're not, and that's all I cared about. And it did its job. Those two movies combined started the snowball effect of this relationship that we have with the studio now, where, after we did these two, it was the next one, which was One Night in Bangkok. One Night in Bangkok was something where it was like, all right, these work. Let's what, can you do another one, roughly. So One Night in Bangkok basically doubled the budget, because One Night in Bangkok was like $500,000, but just one movie, so everything was a bit bigger, better. And uh bought back Mark. And One Night in Bangkok was a movie I wrote when I was going through a really bad time. At the time, my wife was leaving me. I found out, normal life shit where, we've been together, we've been married, and I found out she was having an affair, and I was like, I was really distraught. I'd lost like 9 kilos. I don't know what that is in pounds in 11 days. I couldn't really sleep, whatever. And I was just like, I needed to do something, like whatever. And I not that is not a joke. I sat down at 3 p.m., started writing this script, and by 7 a.m. I was finished.
Oh, wow.
I was done. Right. And that was it. Now, the only change when I wrote that script, One Night in Bangkok, was in my head, it was going to be a Viking. I was thinking of, like, you know what? I knew a director that I worked with a lot, Daniel Zarelli, and he's good friends with Dolph Lundgren. And I was like, I wrote it with Dolph Lundgren in mind, and it was going to be a Viking, right? But it was therapeutic more than anything. It was therapeutic for me. I finished the script, and I was like, I think this isn't bad. I don't know. I'm just going to set it aside, whatever. And then when these zombie movies, were released afterwards, and this, Grindstone was like, let's do more. Do you have something? I'm like, I've got this script, and they're like, we like it. We like Mark. Can you, like, can you get Mark? So I sent it to Mark. Mark loved it, and that's all I changed. I just changed the Viking to be a Hawaiian,
Okay.
and changed it a little bit. And the ending, when it was a Viking, was just going to be the body put on a boat, set on fire, and set out to the ocean. So, like, with Mark, it was, with different. That's the only change I made. And but yeah, legitimately, One Night in Bangkok was written in one night, and we shot it in 15 days, 15 nights, and for, less than $500,000, and it did really well.
So,
Like,
so before we go further, I do have two questions about Dead
sure.
Earth, though.
Sorry.
One, the resort, was it abandoned or was it like just off season?
It was off season. It was a resort we found where it was like there weren't many people there. Like it wasn't really off season. It was just like it was almost going. I mean, they're still around, so they didn't go bankrupt, but it felt like were gonna go bankrupt. I had written Denver to be this very high end resort, really high end, right? It was like, and I had a friend who has a high end resort, and it was going to be beautiful, and it was going to be everything. And then my location manager said, "Come look at this one," you know, and I did, and it was very different, but I liked that difference. I felt like I felt like if I made it really high end, and these two girls in this high end resort, and everything's all pretty and beautiful and nice, that's a version that we could have done. But then when I saw this resort, I just felt like, you know what, I like this. And I like that it's like open, and it's like it's like these walks, it just felt better when they get out and they're walking from their bedrooms, up to where they go up, and it's outdoors. It's not a hallway. Like so there was like, like it I don't know, I just like that. I like being outside, the idea of it. So that's why we just decided, all right, I'm just going to shoot it there.
Well,
Yeah,
a lot of zombie stuff is one location inside. So yours,
exactly.
that's probably why I liked your film
Yeah,
so much, is
that's exactly it.
it was outside and you see them
Yeah,
walking around and it's all wide and you're
yeah,
seeing all this stuff around them and they got their kind of zombie battle
yeah,
gear and they got
yeah,
their different clothes and they do their different activities in the different
yeah,
rooms and
yeah.
so I thought that was really interesting. And then the other question is, your zombies are a little different. I noticed is they're a little more animated. They're a little more kind of like moving their arms around, and they're not the slow zombies, they're the fast zombies, but the fast zombies seem to be more like running, while your
Yeah.
zombies are a little kind of more animated as they run. Was that on purpose?
It was a combination. It was like it was, when you're out open, like if you're gonna do slow zombies, they only work if you have the numbers. We could not get the numbers,
Oh, that makes
right? We
sense.
just didn't have
Yeah.
the budget. But like I love OG zombies. I think they're the scariest zombies to this day. Maybe it's because like when I first watched a zombie movie, it was George Ray Romero. Like they were all slow. They were all like, but they're all, that version of the zombie is only terrifying when there are thousands of them. If it's two or three, they're not scary. So we couldn't do that.
Yeah. Just run right past
So
them.
yeah, so it's like, and we didn't have the money, or to add CG effect to make them like even faster or scarier or whatever. So it was just sort of like, with the stunt people we had, it was just testing, like, let's see on camera, whatever. And that was sort of the movement that was like, all right, like that's, I'm happy with that. Like, in lieu of not having an extra 300 grand, we're gonna go with that. Basically it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I just noticed that like, hey, these are a little different. These look a little,
Yeah.
which is nice because
Yeah.
if you look back in the 80s with like the Italian zombie stuff, the zombies are very different looking than what
Yes.
in fact they used tools. They
Yes.
use different
Yes.
things than Americans. And we're used
Yeah.
to zombies not doing that, forgetting that Romero
Yes.
started with the graveyard zombie using a rock on
Yes.
the window. So his
Yes.
they can use
Yeah.
weapons and move quickly if they want to. So okay, cool. So yeah, so one night in Bangkok, this is it right here. And I really enjoyed this, and you should not believe what you read. Because what I read is Collateral. And I'm like, oh, he made a Collateral movie? Okay. It's a
Yeah.
guy in a taxi who's having this girl drive him around and he's killing
Yeah.
people. Okay. So, and it's not.
It's that.
It's not. It's a totally different movie. And just don't believe everything you read. Because I've even gotten stuff wrong on this interview because of stuff I've read. So just don't believe everything you say. I really enjoy this. And it's interesting that you say that you were going through things at that time.
Yeah.
Because when I was watching this, I was like, I bet this is like his most personal film. There's something
Yes.
about this that tells me if I asked him what is your most personal film, he would say this one.
Yeah.
And I really
For
liked it.
sure.
I really
Yeah.
enjoyed it.
Thank you.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
And
it's
I'm really proud of this one because it's like it was the only thing that gets me where we failed as filmmakers, as a production unit, was um was the ending. When we get to the end, um, because of our schedule, it was really tight. Like I had 6 hours to shoot so much. Like the whole ending, the attack, everything that happens at the end was all done in 6 hours, and that was too fast. And I didn't like the action when I looked at the movie. You know, like I wanted like 3 hours extra would have made a big difference. You know, in how I wanted the action to be much more specific. You know, much more at the end when Mark storms, you know, the castle, if you will, when it goes to the Japanese, like, and we just didn't have time. And also my one, I don't blame her, you know, because we didn't have time or budget. Um, I was like, the outfits of the bad guy at the end, where they're all like white tracksuits, like, you know, if you see behind the scenes, I even make a joke about like them being a boy band. Like it was just
yeah.
wrong. Like it was not what I envisioned. But anyways, but because of that, those two factors combined, the only way I could make it work was me and my editor. We decided, I was like, try split screening it, right? Because I'd never done split screen. And I was like, you know, but try split screening it and maybe the action scene works better. And it did, for me anyways. Like I looked at it, I was like, I was much happier with it. So once that happened, I'm like, I can't just get to the end of the movie and all of a sudden everything's split screen. So I have to work that in. So I went back to the beginning and we started inserting all these split screens into, like, you know, different moments in the movie, so that, you know, by the time you get to the end and it's split screen, it just become like, you know, part of the movie, right? The style of
Sure.
the movie or whatever, and everything works. And I was forced to do that. That was the only thing I was forced to do due to our budget and lack of time, you know. And so, like, some people, you know, my friends, you know, like people, you know, who I work with, because they're like, you've never done split screen, why did you, you know, it just feels different, you know. And I was like, I felt I had to do it to make it work. Otherwise, I felt like the ending, like that, the shooting part of this, you know, it just didn't work. It just wasn't, you know, they're just standing shooting, you know, it didn't work. So, but by doing the split screen, you know, it worked. So that's the only issue I have with it. But aside from that, like, I'm really happy with the movie. I love what Mark did. I love what Vanita did. You know, the girl, she never acted before. You know, Mark and I kind of found her, we casted her, and we're really, really happy with it. And yeah, I mean, and that movie sealed our relationship with the studio, with Grindstone, you know. And since then, you know, we've made more movies with them, and you know, we, you know, right now I've got two other movies I'm going to do for them this year. Like, that movie, like, you know, it did well for them, and that movie also led to Bang, because that movie was released on August 25th, my birthday. I remember that, like, in America, you know, Lionsgate released it on that day, and the very next day, Peter Lenkoff called me, and he's like, "Hey, I just watched One Night in Bangkok. I really liked it. You know, it was like, great job." And we talked a bit, and he's like, I just wrote a script, spec. He wrote it himself for himself. And he's like, I'd love for you to look at it. And that was Bang. So, you know, like, you know, because of One Night in Bangkok, you know, Peter Lenkoff, you know, called me and sent me Bang
Yeah,
to
and
do.
that's awesome because um Bang has not come out yet, and
Nope.
it's your most recent directing job.
Yes.
And you let me watch it, thank you, and I really liked it. And I don't want to give really too much of the plot away on it, because there is that twist, and
Uh-huh.
that I was not expecting at all. um that is Yeah, I think it's interesting because your films show a progression. And
Mm-hmm.
like night, you know, One Night in Bangkok, I would probably say to that point,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna leave Ballistic because that's American Warner Brothers, so I should leave that out.
Yeah.
I think probably One Night at Bangkok might be your best film.
Mhm.
to that point. And
Mhm.
then but then with Bang, I think you took it even further.
Yeah.
And so when Bang does come out, I highly recommend people to watch it. I mean, just the editing, the cinematography, the directing, the writing, everything in that is top notch. And
Thank you.
Peter Weller, you got Peter Weller in it.
Yeah.
You got
Yeah.
RoboCop. And
Yeah.
I mean, come on, Ray Park, Peter Weller, I mean, and I really enjoyed it. So
Yeah.
that's when can people expect to see Bang?
Probably later this year. We're very close, and yeah, and it's the not. I mean, it's Bang was something we did without pre-selling it or anything. Everything else, we pre-sold basically, and everything I do is basically pre-sold, and that's the formula we work in now. And but Bang, it was literally like the studios liked the script, the studios we worked with, and we were trying to cast it. Peter Lankoff and I were casting it, and Scott, we were casting it for a really long time, for like a year. And for whatever reason, we just couldn't get it. There were many actors that the studios wanted, and we couldn't get it. And then um, I did Shiro's as a producer and as a DP, and it was one of the first movies under our new format now, our new structure in the company that we have. And Shiro's was it's a movie for Paramount, and I produced it, I shot it along with Scott and Jordan, who wrote and directed it, and Jack Kesey came over to do Shiro's, and Jack and I became really good friends. And Jack, so after we did Shiro's, I was like, I want to make Bang with Jack, and I showed Peter, scenes of Jack and everything, and Peter like liked him. We took a risk. We were he wasn't approved by the studio or anything, but I got investors and we made the movie. Now, having done the movie, the movie's been finished. It was finished last year, and so then with the strike and everything, the town kind of shut down too. But we were like, um, um, two or three people, we've talked to, and it's we made the movie, as you can see, like from it was a much bigger budget than One Night in Bangkok. It was like I had decent money on this one. I had proper time, and so it's more expensive. So it's like we're trying to now sort of like um uh well, what might help us too is Jack Kesey landed Hellboy after Bang, and they've shot the movie and everything, and Hellboy will be coming out later this year, right? So it's like,
Oh,
yeah, so he is Hellboy. Jack Kesey is now Hellboy, so
okay, interesting.
yeah, so that's good, because of Prodigy. Jack is a really really good actor, but he's been in a lot of big movies, but never sort of as a lead. So people wouldn't be too familiar with him, right? So like you said, Peter Weller is the most known cast in there, but Peter Lankoff is good friends with Peter Weller, so that's how Lankoff got Peter Weller in, and Lankoff also know like Steve Bastoni, who's a great actor. Many people might not know. Tristan Mays, who had done TV for Peter Lankoff, and Peter Lankoff, he was a creator and the showrunner for Hawaii Five O, MacGyver, like the and I'll get name another one, but so he's a great writer, and he was able to bring these casts, which I thought were perfect for the movie. But distribution doesn't work that way too. Distribution, they like the name. At a certain budget, there's certain names and everything. And right now, Jack isn't at the name at that level where it's easy to sell for the price that we need and everything. So there's negotiations going on and everything. And I've cut this movie down. My final version of this movie was about 7 minutes longer, and it had like other drama. But this most recent version that used is the final version, but it's also, like this is very recent. Like this was just done 2 weeks ago. When I went back and looked at it, cut it down, by 7 minutes, and cut out a lot of the Johnny storyline, the Steve Bastoni storyline, and everything, and made it a bit tighter, right? And right now, as we're talking, um, you know, uh, um, um, there are like three buyers that we work with, distributor studios, who are watching it right now too. So we'll
Oh,
see
okay,
where
good.
it ends up, and everything. Like it'll someone will buy it. I don't know at what price or whatever. But so it should be coming out later this year. Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked it. And I'm sorry, you said the lead actor's name is
Jack Keshy.
Jack Keshy. So he kind of reminded me in a way of like an Eastwood,
Yes.
wood. And
Yes.
so I liked him in it. So I
Yeah,
thought
and
that
it was very
he did a good
purposeful.
job.
Like we talked about it, Jack and I thought he nailed the part. Like he was perfect. Like I like I it's yeah it's I'm really 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 proud of this. And this is like One Night in Bangkok. It's like these movies that we talk about. It's like I'm okay with with anybody not liking it or whatever. Like I don't use IMDb. I love going on IMDb and just reading like user comments because they're awesome. Even the bad ones, they're just entertaining as shit. And it's like, you know, and I'm okay with it. You can hate it because like you're watching these versions, these movies, these recent ones we've been talking about. They're my movies. They're like, this is how I wanted it. This is like, everything was done for a reason or whatever. And you may not agree with it. You may not like it, but I stand by it. I fully respect your opinion, and everything, but which I couldn't say for Ballistic, and I couldn't say for Zero Tolerance, those, and Tekken and all those movies. But these ones, they're like, yeah, I'm really proud of them, and I would love to work again with Jack Kethy. I love him. We've done two movies now together, and we have more. We want to do more. But the marketplace also, it's in a very different place than it was 2 years ago too. Streaming and everything. So the market is evolving, and we're just we have to adapt to it, and but I really hope I have a chance to do more movies with Jack.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I hope so too. So
Yeah,
we only have three left where we're going to do two at the same time, and then
sure,
I'll let you go. So we shouldn't be here for much longer. So I know
no
you're
problem.
busy. I know you're busy, and it's late. What
I'm
time is
not.
it where
I'm
you
not.
are?
I'm not. Don't worry about the time. Like I sleep late, so it's okay.
Okay.
I'm good. Yeah, don't worry about me.
So these next three are where you're a DP, you're the director of
Yes,
photography. And
yes,
now I got to be honest, I'm not a religious person, but I do love pure flex. And
yes,
I especially love religious end of the world movies. And I love movies about the rapture. I
yeah,
love Left Behind, the actual
yeah, yeah, yeah,
trilogy
yeah,
with,
yeah,
with
yeah,
Kirk
yeah,
Cameron because they bring the devil into it. The
yeah,
devil's
yeah,
there. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
where
yeah,
the Nick Cage one, who I'm a big fan
yeah,
of.
yeah,
He's my
yeah,
second favorite actor. I got a whole shelf of Nick Cage right up here. And
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I like that where Nick Cage didn't bring in the devil because I guess it was maybe
yeah,
more mainstream.
yeah,
So when I saw that you were the DP on some of these, I'm like, I got to get these. And I do own some other Pure Flix movies too, because
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I feel that the religious end of the world movies are more honest with how they portray it than, let's say, a mainstream Hollywood movie would.
yeah.
And my favorite movie about the rapture is, and I didn't know it was religious at first by religious filmmakers until I saw the making of, but it's called The Remaining, and
Yeah,
it
yeah.
is excellent. And
Yes,
then I
yes.
watched the behind the scenes, and I'm like, oh, this is a religious organization making this movie.
Well, when you
That's
watch faith-based movies, you're absolutely, the one thing about it is they're very knowledgeable on the Bible and everything. And like while watching them making this, and I'm shooting it, but they're like very precise. It's like it's like, oh, it's got, and you're just like, oh, I'm learning more about the Bible. Like they're very serious about that. Like you cannot, like you can't alter shit.
yeah, and they're scared. They're so
Yeah.
when you watch these movies, it's always kind of frightening, like The Remaining and some of
Hmm.
these other ones.
Hmm.
So you had worked on, and I did watch both of these, and it's Mark and Mark. Do I have them right? Yeah, Mark and
Two.
Mark Two.
Hmm.
Mark Two is the Redemption.
Hmm.
So try to get them because that black knocks everything out. There we go. And I enjoyed both of these, and they're pure flicks. And we got Craig Schaefer, we got Gary
Yeah.
Daniels back, Eric Roberts. I mean, The guy was a talking cat. I mean, you got to love Eric Roberts. And so they're in both movies. So it's I enjoyed both of these quite a bit. So can you tell me a little bit about the making of these?
Yeah, well, the Mark, Michael Scott was a producer on The Lost Medallion, which is the first movie I did, like, way back, and like I produced and was a second unit director on that. And then so afterwards, right, immediately after, like within that year, he came back and he was like, I want to make movies in Thailand. He'd never been to Thailand, and then he made Lost Medallion with my company, and he really, he was like, he had a good time, and so he bought these two movies. He had directors on them, and he's like, yeah, he's like, I'd like you to shoot it, and I did, and it was very by the book. It was just literally like we just shot it, and like that I had very little creative influence on it, except for I just blocked everything for the director and just shot it. So I guess I had big influence on it, but it was the script was what it was and everything, and they had good actors, so that always helps. It was easy, and that those two movies, and then he made two more here. Pure Flix did, one of which I directed without not using my name,
Oh,
but
okay,
yeah,
okay.
and it was but and Gary Daniels was in that movie too. Like Gary is in there because of me, not like of like it wasn't like Gary Daniels was not into faith-based movies and everything, but and I love Gary. He's a good friend. And so when Mike came over and he was like, "Hey, I have this other one. It's a sequel, and I don't have a director for it. Will you do it?" I'm like, "Sure." Like you can't put my name on it. It was Encounters. It was Encounters, and the other movie he made here, which I just made, my company made. I didn't do, was Escape, but Encounters 2, I think it's called Lost in Paradise or whatever. And I think the name I used was Bobby Smith, but Smith spelled was Smythe.
Okay,
Uh
okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I never use the same name, by the way. Like so, like, but I think in Encounters 2, it was Bobby Smith. I mean, I shot and then I directed that movie. But again, it was directing like with the script that they gave me, right? Like I couldn't change anything. But Mike is a good friend, so I was happy to do it, and I thought the movie turned out really well. I think it's a very different type of Pureflix movie. But that was a movie where like they had Pureflix uses one Jesus in all their movies, right? And he's a great guy, and like, but he's like he takes his job very seriously. Like I remember at the end of Encounters, I had blocked it in such a way where I had the devil and Jesus standing, and the dialogue was already written, but I had blocked the scene, and it was the only time, very few times in my career actually, where like an actor was like, "I don't like your blocking," but Jesus didn't like my blocking, but his reasoning was completely based on the Bible. Like I asked him
Interesting.
why, and I forget the answer because I'm not religious, but he sat there and explained for me in 10 minutes of why the devil and Jesus cannot be like this, whatever. And I was like, all right, fine, So I reblocked it for him, because I wasn't
Well,
gonna
he is
answer it.
Jesus. He would know. So
And
yeah.
he's done this for Pureflix so many times. He has a huge fan base as Jesus, he's Jesus and God. I mean, he is Pureflix's Jesus, like and so he knows, like, I kid you not, in that movie that I did for them, they had like an 8-page monologue by Jesus, right?
Uh,
Like it was an 8-page monologue, maybe even longer. It was really long. I'm not even kidding. This man did it in one take,
oh
nonstop.
wow.
I had 3 cameras rolling on him, and and then like, and he nailed it. I was like, we're gonna be here forever because this is like, this monologue is so long. Like it's this is and but he nailed it in one take. And then we just shot the reactions of it was super easy. Like we were done with, like, I mean, he was awesome. Like he was super professional. David White, who is a partner at PureFlix and the lead in Encounter too. He saw the movie. I still remember he called me from LA when he saw the finished cut, and he was like, "Dude, like like I did not imagine this. Like it's very poetic. Like I was, and I was like, I just tried to just do it in a little bit different way than most PureFlix movies, and just shoot it a little bit differently. But it was a fun movie to do, and but that also, like, if you're talking about Mark 1 and 2, then you have that, Encounters is very much a part of that because it was all done at around the same time.
I'll have to pick those up though. So I
Yeah.
guess the actor who plays Jesus with the 8 pages, that was his Sermon on the Mount.
Yeah, but Encounters too is the first one. It's just about it's always hence the Encounters. It's a situation where it's one location. All their movies they've done multiple encounters, and it's very successful for them. It's just like the situation. Like the first one was in like a diner, right, and like the robber, whatever, and like Jesus comes into a situation, where all these people get to encounter Jesus, in this one location and everything, and it's fascinating. It's really fascinating. It was a good experience, and I had a really good time, and it was where um yeah, a lot of different things happened that to this day as um crew and everything that I met that are still with me today, stuff like that. An ex-wife, all sorts of shit. So like, it was an important moment in my life.
Yeah, and you don't because you'd even mentioned that you're not religious, and I said I'm not, that you could still enjoy these movies without being religious. That it's there. I do have like a little stack of PureFlix movies and some other films that
Yeah,
are religious, but like I said, they're all kind of end of the world type of stuff.
yeah,
And
and
I just really enjoy their take on
yeah,
these type of things. People ask me because they know I'm a Nick Cage fan. They know I own Left Behind the movie. And then I showed that it was Left Behind trilogy, and they're like, "Oh, which one do you like better?" And I said, "Oh, the trilogy." I mean,
yeah,
and Nick Cage said that he did his version because his brother is a priest and his brother asked him to.
yeah,
And but you got Kurt Cameron, who's like the full-on Christian
yeah,
guy, and he's right
yeah,
up against, the devil. And I'm
yeah,
just like,
yeah.
I'm sorry for the twitching. It's like, I think when I went blank for a second there, some twitch developed. So I apologize for my screen twitching.
One, if you watch One Night in Bangkok, when you watch it, what Mark says, that's my take on religion. That's me. That's personal. That's how I feel about
Oh,
religion.
okay.
Like yeah, like I don't disrespect it. Like and I'm very well versed in the Quran. I've been in high school. I've been to a very 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 Christian school. And I'm Buddhist. I was born Buddhist. Being Thai. So I'm familiar with Buddhism, Shintoism, Hinduism. And everything. And I think everyone needs faith in their life, but I just look at religion and the way it's practiced is just I just don't believe in the way religion is practiced, not necessarily religion itself, the idea of religion itself. I just think, it's all capitalism more than anything. That's the only thing I have against religion.
Yeah, I know some people who, yeah, have their own faith and their and all that,
Yeah,
but yeah, they just don't like, yeah, the corporate side
yeah,
of it all.
yeah, and that's it. Yeah,
And it's so it's interesting watching these type of things and kind of talking to people, about it.
yeah.
So but now our last film here, I do have a few questions about, and that would be Once Upon a Time in Vietnam.
Mhm.
And this I did enjoy, but my questions are, is this present day post-apocalyptic? Is it?
Well, to start, because Dustin came and did Angels for me. While he was doing Angels, he was telling me he had this movie he was going to direct his first time as a director in Vietnam, and he's like, he asked me if I wanted to shoot it for him, and that at that time, um, I was I was like, okay, I'd done, the mark and everything, but I wasn't really, looking to shoot for other people. But Dustin was a very good friend. Like when I was in LA, working in LA, he was my, one of my, like, he was my best friend in LA. Like I saw him every day. And so I was like, sure, anything for you, so I went to Vietnam and shot it. And this was all him and Vincent Ngo, his writing partner, who developed this. And Vincent is also another very good friend of mine. And it's very like what do they call it, cyberpunk, like some punk is like yeah, there's a
Yeah,
word for
because
it. I'm
when
like
I got this, I thought it was a period piece,
it
and then
it
I'm like,
is
and then he writes up in a
it's steampunk.
motorcycle.
Yeah, steampunk. It's very steampunk. The whole, so that was their whole idea from the beginning. So it's a very unique world. It's not present day. It's not the past. It's not the future. It's sort of like it's an alternate universe. It's like it's its own steampunk world. He's writing his own history basically, and some can call it a fantasy world or whatever. This is my take. I didn't write it, but when Dustin and I were talking about it, it's just like, yeah. And Bao, the costume designer, played a massive part in it, because the costume was massive in this. And um it was an incredible time. Like, Veronica and all the lead, it's they're incredible. And it was a really good experience. And it taught me a lot too, because like it was very challenging, very, very, very challenging. Vietnam, wonderful, wonderful people, crew, everything, but their technology and today is different. This was done 10 years ago. Like today their film industry has come much, much further along. But back then, like, the lights would be Chinese lights, and so the bulbs would be, different. They're like knockoff bulbs, so the color count is different. Like, I'd be shooting and I'd be like, why is his face green? And then we'd have to stop shooting and we'd have to go find the light that was like, I mean, it was incredibly challenging. And we were out in the desert, and it was really tough, and it was fucking like 40 some days shoot. Like it was it
Oh
was
wow.
it was it was it was hard. But I thought, Roger Ewan, who, had choreographed, Jason Bourne, James Bond, he plays the villain, and he and Dustin, did the choreography of the fights. So the fights are outstanding.
This
Yeah,
guy here.
the fights are amazing. Like they're
Oh,
like
the fights are
it's yeah,
great.
yeah. It's
They're
really, really well
they're
done.
fun. They're really
Yeah,
well. That I liked the whole movie. I thought visually it looked great. I love the
yeah,
sets. I love the costumes. I love that. And then all of a sudden, like you had brought up, like, like Crouching Tiger earlier. Then all of a sudden, there's those type of scenes
yeah,
where somebody would have like a big pole, and they just be punching the pole down, and
yeah,
like splitting it.
yeah,
And the motorcycle stuff, I'm like, wait, what is this? Because both of them drive up on motorcycles, and I'm like,
yeah,
well, motorcycles are kind of like horses. So,
yeah.
all right. And then the main bad guy that kind of like runs the town is like, oh, I have this other shop and we use electricity. And I'm like, okay, wait, is this like some sort of post-apocalyptic thing where like electricity isn't really used, but a rich
It's
person can
steampunk.
have it?
It's steampunk.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
yeah, there was stuff like that where just different things. Like I noticed that's a lamp, that's a modern day lamp.
yeah,
So this
yeah,
can't be a period piece.
yeah,
But I was enjoying everything about it because it was different. And
yeah.
I think movies like that I enjoy, where you have elements of the future, but it's
Hmm.
not totally the future.
Uh-huh,
Even something like Blade Runner. I mean, it's the cars fly, but everything else
uh-huh,
is, a chair is a chair, a lamp's a lamp, a building is a building. They're not
hmm.
floating in the sky,
Yeah,
buildings.
yeah,
It's just, oh yeah, now we have cars that fly. But everything
yeah,
else looks very kind of 1940s.
yeah,
And that's kind of what I got from this, is that okay, it's kind
yeah,
of modern day, but it's not modern day, like you said,
yeah, yeah,
steampunk.
yeah. Yeah,
So
yeah. Dustin
yeah,
was
I really
very
liked
specific.
it.
All the questions you have, I had for him too. I'm like, what the hell is this? I'm like, what the, like, like it's not a period piece, and like, and so he was like, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so that's one that I definitely recommend. I recommend the Mark and the Mark II, but if I had to
yeah.
pick out of the three, I would definitely say Once Upon a Time and
And since then, like, it's been released. Shiro's has been released. Like I shot that one, last year, and since then, it's coming out very soon. Another Lionsgate movie that I produced and with Scott and Jordan, and it's called Latency. Brilliant director. His first time, James Croak, and that's with Sasha Luss and Alexis Ren. And if you like one location movies, this is Sasha and Alexis in one apartment, and it's the first time in my life where I read the script, I didn't fucking understand a single word.
ah.
I'm like, this, no, it's very well written, but I'm like, I don't understand this movie, but we decided to make it. Lionsgate would backed it. They were into it. James came in as a director and he was really good. Like as I'm shooting, it's never happened to me before. As I'm shooting the movie for James, with James, I like literally what I've read on the page and I didn't understand, it just crystallized in front of me. Like as I see the blocking, the rehearsal, and we're shooting it, I'm like, oh shit. Oh, okay, And then once we made the movie, to listen, like James is very specific. He was like it was the most challenging movie I've ever shot, because most directors, when I work with them, they're like, they give me a lot of freedom visually, and James was very collaborative, but the difference being he had very like there were frames where he was like moving, he was like, asking me to move like half an inch to the left, 2 inches closer, like that detailed. But it was phenomenal. And the studio thinks so. They're really, really happy with it. It's called Latency, and it's really good. It's a horror movie.
Okay.
I'd never really done horror, and yeah, like that one, I really think it's gonna find a big audience because it's a horror. It's super smart. Sasha and Alexis, the only two people in the movie, are fantastic. And like I said, the director is very specific. He like there are scenes where Sasha, who's the lead, and she's an agoraphobia, like I forget the word, but she's afraid to leave her apartment, right? One of those. And like she's having entire conversations with the landlord who wants her rent, but the landlord is on the other side of the door, but we're always inside. Like literally, I begged the director. I'm like, we need to cast someone and let's just shoot the other side of the door. Like as a producer and just as like a DP who is, I find myself to be somewhat competent. I'm like, let's just shoot it. If you don't use it, don't use it. But like don't go wait until the edit room and go fuck. Or a studio note like it's a 3 minute scene and we never see the other side. We never see the person she's talking to. I'm like, I like that can't happen. Like that's not possible. But our
Right.
director was very specific. He's like, no, I don't want to see him. And we didn't shoot it, and we didn't cast someone, and it fucking works. It's like when you're watching the movie, it adds like if you're so frustrated because you're like, but it really works in the movie. And I told the director, I told James afterwards, I was like, dude, I'm like it's amazing, it's incredible. Like you were very singular with what you wanted to do, and you did it, and it's a fantastic movie. It really is. Like it's a movie that really surprised me. Like as a person who made it, who read the script and then who like, all right, we're gonna make this movie. And yeah, I really think you'll enjoy this. And, like when after you
It
see it,
sounds
maybe we
interesting.
can. Yeah, we'll talk about it again after you've seen it. I mean, like because
Yeah.
it's really really good. It's really really good. And then we also just did Depravity with Paul Tamasi, who wrote The Fighter and amongst other movies. He was really good writer, and he just did his first movie as a director called Depravity, and that movie is very Hitchcockian. really interesting. Another one location movie,
Oh,
and great ensemble cast, and Taylor John Smith is the lead, guy in it, and if you look him up, he was in, Where the Crawdads Sing and a whole bunch of movies, right? He's another person who's ready to pop, like like he's younger, and coincidentally, like I've like Jack, like all these people that I meet, and we become good friends. Like Sasha, I met on Shiro's, and now she's done 3 movies with us. Sasha Luss, and hopefully Taylor is another person. I'll get to make 2 or 3 more movies, that I direct, with him. We have one right now where we're close to doing. I think we'll do it this year. It's called Hour of the Wolf, and he's a lone assassin. His name is Wolf, and he goes in on a job. He very specialized, works for an organization. Normal cliche, but the interesting aspect. Another one location movie is the people who prepare the missions for him. They give him an apartment, a location to go in to set up camp. Where he's gonna kill his next assignment, and he goes into the apartment, and there's a glitch. He finds kidnapped, abused woman in the closet. So like the people didn't, who did the scouting, they failed on that, but he still has to carry out his mission, and but he has a girl with him, So it's like it's all sorts of, it's really cool. It's a
huh.
really really cool, little movie, and yeah, so it's called our, that's something I think we'll do, either be my next movie or the one after that, um, but um, but yeah, I mean, it's yeah, it always like one movie always leads to another somehow. Whether it's an actor or producer that I meet, or writer, and long may it continue. Like last year was tough. The strike really, like we were supposed to do 4 movies, we only did one, because of the strike.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm really glad it's all over, and hopefully we can get back up and going again. Because I've been doing this for 26 years, but now, for the first time, I'm in a position, and started with Dead Earth. Like we said, Dead Earth, the driver and everything, where we have the trust of 2 or 3, of these distributors, studios, and we just hopefully we'll be doing like anywhere between 3 to 5 movies a year.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that'd be
Yeah,
great. So
yeah,
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 yeah.
more stuff for me and others to watch. So, well, not counting the zombie films, are there any other films that you've directed that you might do a sequel to or a prequel? Any ideas?
No, I don't know. Bang is one where we've talked about it with Peter and Jack, but then like Bang needs to, get released first and everything, and hopefully, enough people watch it and like it, and if that does well, and if there's, if this, is it this, if somebody, distributors or whatever, wants it, would love to do it. Like Peter and I already have the story for the sequel, but like I've been in this long enough where nothing we do, we're like we're gonna do a sequel. The driver and Dead Earth, we did it back to back. We did it at the same time. We knew they were connected, so it's not really a sequel. Like it's just a connected, universe, if you will. And then, in doing the second one as we were shooting it, and I didn't really know how to end it, and then I just thought of the ending with Kane. So then I called Kane. I was like, "Hey, can you come over for a day? Just And he's like, "Yeah." So then when Kane said yes, and I was like, "Well, fuck!" Like, I would love to do. Like when I saw Kane and what we did with Kane, like even though he showed up for 2 minutes, whatever, he was, I thought he was fantastic, and I was like, "Holy shit!" I would love to do a lone wolf and cub samurai type movie, in a zombie world,
Sure. Yeah.
and we may still do that. But that sort of evolved because of that. Like, Ken and I actually have a ninja movie we want to do. Take it all the way back to Revenge of the Ninja, but a proper modern day, it would be more like Equalizer, in today's setting, like a real world ninja, what they would be doing, how they would be, like if they were a lot around today, kind of stuff. So we have that we want to do soon, I hope. And I do have a movie that we haven't really started selling yet, with Kane. That's this is a great story, and I don't want to, I don't know how long this has been, but I don't want to bore everybody with
It's
but it's
however long you would like it to be.
it's a movie that I shot with Kane 8 years ago, right after Tekken, soon after Tekken. And there was a producer partner, Kane's producer partner involved, and literally the money didn't show up. And we got we had hired, and we paid, not me, but the producer had paid for like a big actor, and Jason Patrick was involved, and he'd flown over on his way to Thailand. Our producer told us that the money's not showing up, so we shot on Kane's dime half the movie. We shot everything with Jason Patrick out completely in 9 days. Another, again, 9 days, and we had to do the other half of it. And we never got the producer was never able to get the money, and it was like a totally independent film. So we've been sitting on it for years, 7 years, whatever. And then Kane finally came to me, and he was like, "We got to do something. Like, I can't just throw my money away, and stuff." And like, we didn't have a lot of money, so I looked at the footage that we had, and it was really funny. The movie was my version of like an Asian James Bond. Kane was like, but not. He didn't work for the government. He was like a lone mercenary, like a mercenary type, but very suave, very. And so we looked at all the footage we had with Jason Patrick and everything we shot, and then Kane came over during COVID. This was like, he literally had to quarantine for 2 weeks, like while we were, and we had very little money, and I was going to do an action movie, Carry On, and at this like same tone, but it was just sort of like, so the first half we shot was going to be like earlier, you know what I mean? Like, it was just going to be much earlier. And then like, the current would be like 15 years later, like, and that all the events you saw that we had shot with Jason Patrick was a different time, but it was all interconnected. So I'd written that script, right? That half of the script. And while Kane was in quarantine and we were scouting location, I'm not even kidding, one of on my crew, young, like these newly graduate students who I actually taught at a film school here in Thailand, and they had graduated and they were working with me for the first time. So they were like PAs. They made a funny joke while we were in a meeting after we looked at locations, and they're like, "What if this was a comedy? Wouldn't it be funny if this was a comedy and this was some?" And then some about the way they said it struck me. And I was like, hang on. So I reimagined everything. I called Kane out while he was in quarantine. I'm like, because he was paying for it. I was like, "Hey man, I'm gonna put out like a really out there idea." And I was like, what if this was a comedy, right? What if we didn't make an action movie? And I was like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, what if everything we shot with Jason Patrick was a movie that your character did? And you're like, you were like your dad. You were like this big action star for a moment in time. And this was like 20 years ago, and like today you're like, no one knows who you are. Like, you hadn't done a movie ever, right? But then like a producer, like this really gregarious, out there, over the top, larger than life producer, had an idea to bring you back to do an action movie, right? And we made a movie about you like making an action movie today as like a has-been action star from years gone by, you know? And like, and he was like, what are you talking about, dude? I like, we've done all this. Like, do you trust me? Like, I trust you. Like, all right, I think this is a better way. And he came out of quarantine and we shot the movie without a script. It was
Oh,
just all ideas. And I would write it like, the night before, just these and put, rough together. And I had an incredible cast, local cast, that came in to support to do all these stuff. And I really liked the movie. Like Kane really likes it because
nice.
Kane loves the movie, which is what I most proud of because it's his money and like he has to. And we haven't really taken it out yet because it's like, Kane is not that, he's not big of a name yet, right? Like he's not. So it's like we understand that, but it's like, I don't know, like I'm hoping we're working towards it, because we've been working on all these other movies too. We don't want to like convolute everything. So we're waiting for the right time to bring it to our partners that we know and hopefully they'll like it and then they'll buy it and then they'll sell it, stuff. But it's a movie that we have that's completely done and it's called The Action Guy, and
Okay.
that's another way like, and it's not really fun. Like I don't even know what it is because it's just so hard to like it's one of those making of a movie, but it's not funny enough, because I'm not great at comedy. It has funny. It's a really like a slice of life, kind of thing. And yeah, I mean that's
It
another movie
sounds,
we're
I'm
thinking.
very intrigued. It sounds funny. It sounds good.
I mean, the journey to get here is maybe even more fascinating for me anyways because it's been such a long journey and it's been so much up and downs, so that's why Kane and I have no objectivity when we watch it together and we screen it for the crew and everything, we watch it together and it's like it works, we like it, but if no one knew the story, like would people watch this and like would it make sense to them, would it work, like we don't know, and that's the biggest thing, like we genuinely don't know, so like
Well, Terry Gilliam did what? The Man Who Killed Don Quixote, and the documentary is better than the movie. So it's
yeah.
or the movie they eventually made. But
Unfortunately, there was no one documenting this whole process, so I can't even go that route. You're just
uh,
gonna have to see the final
audio
product, like
commentary. Always, there's
yeah,
always audio
exactly.
commentary. So it's yeah. I mean, I think that sounds funny, and I do. I would definitely watch that. So knowing the
Yeah,
history
yeah,
of it
like
makes it even better. But
yeah,
yeah, I would watch it. And there's a ton of companies out here that would probably, if you wanted to just go, Blu-ray type of route,
yeah, yeah,
Arrow and A24, Scream Factory, all these people out here pick up, kind of unusual films to
yeah.
release
It's
and do,
definitely unusual.
yeah, and they, always release with like a ton of extras. So, that's where you
The
can kind
great
of get the
thing
whole
if we,
history.
when we finally release it, I mean, because we paid Jason Patrick and he's a great guy, like I really love him. Great to work with and everything, and we have he's when we paid him, we signed a contract, everything like everything. But the funny thing would be if we did, when it did come out, and then Jason saw it, because he'd be like, "What the fuck is this? Like, I didn't sign up to like,
But it's made, it's out there. It's it got released. So,
yeah." So we'll see. Like, that should be fascinating.
so man,
Yeah.
lots of stuff to look forward to. Is there, before I let you go, is there anything else that we can look forward to? Anything else that you would like
Well,
to kind of push or
well, no, I mean, Latency is our next movie that will be released, and then after that will probably be Bang. But Latency is really like Bang. I can't say much about because I directed that, but Latency is a movie that I produced and I shot. But all credit goes to James, our director. And the two actors. They were phenomenal. Like, and it's a really really good movie, man. Like, I think Latency is it should be like like it has the potential to be like a genuine hit, like like I really think like people will be really surprised by it, like it's really, really well done. Like and it's different. It's different than anything out there. It's about a gamer, and it's really good. Like I'm really looking forward to that movie coming out and seeing the reaction, like what people would think of it, because it's definitely new for us because I've never done horror, and but it's made me I love horror from like the 90s, 80s, like
Oh yeah,
today's horror. I
definitely
mean,
80s.
James Wan is doing incredible stuff with horror, but
Ah, I
that's
love James Wan.
few.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's, more, but the majority of horror movies, they're all like jump scares and, sound, and everything. And they're all the same to me anyways. Like, and I'm getting old. Like I said, I'm 50. So like, I don't like if I loud movies, I want it to be like Dune, sound design, like,
Loved
like
Dune.
movies
Yeah.
like that, Arrival, shit like that. Most horror movies to me, I just feel like I'm just overwhelmed by the loudness of the sound today. So I don't really watch a lot of horror movies anymore. I used to live off of horror, but like unless it's a James Wan movie, like I don't even bother now.
My friend Jonathan and I, he has his channel called Horror Film Lovers, and have we started with Scream and did kind of like a whole Kevin Williamson thing
Yeah.
that somehow tied into James Wan. Like an actor was in Scream and then like a James Wan film.
Uh,
So then we moved over to James Wan, and now we're doing it has to be horror. We're not doing action stuff yet, but it's
yeah.
so we've reviewed every James Wan film
Yeah.
since so all the Conjuring we've done, all
Yeah.
everything Insidious we've done, and it's we love, yeah, we are huge James
Yeah.
Wan supporters and enthusiasts,
He's
and
incredible.
yeah, I mean, even though Aquaman 2 got a bunch of crap, I liked it. I enjoyed the movie. I'd like to see the original cut, but I think he's, yeah, one of our best filmmakers out there, director and
Oh, for
producer.
sure.
You
For
know,
sure. For sure. Yeah, for
so
sure. And Jordan Peele too. Like, Get Out was phenomenal.
I've
I
liked all three
wasn't
of his.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I all three are well made, but I just feel like it was like Get Out with the, like peak, and then it just kind of like, but not they're not bad, they're not, but by the standard of Get Out, it just it didn't go up for me. You know what I mean? Like it's yeah.
I
But
really liked
I'll watch
Us.
anything he does.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll
Us,
I'll
I
watch
really
anything.
enjoyed. I thought that might be right there with Get Out for me. I just like the whole doppelganger thing and living
Yeah, yeah.
underground, and I
Mhm.
really enjoyed all that. Nope, I thought was okay. Nope, I thought was an interesting idea on
Yeah, yeah. That's why
extraterrestrials,
he's a
and
phenomenal filmmaker,
so
but
yeah.
it wasn't like, yeah, it was like Get Out was like, it's still
It,
the peak for me
yeah,
today.
nobody's going to duplicate Us and Nope. They're going to duplicate Get Out. So
Yes.
it's that's the film. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
yeah. There's a lot of great filmmakers out there these days,
Yeah.
and a lot of them go underappreciated.
Mhm.
So it's and in America that would be you. I mean, I think that you're a really good filmmaker, and I
Thank
think
you.
that
Thank you. But
well, you're welcome, because people need to, even if it is on Tubi or whatever, just I
mhm.
think that they need to check these things out. My whole thing with Dead Earth is I was just looking for a zombie movie and I saw that cover, and then I'm like, oh, okay, one location, hot girls, zombies. I'm sold. And then that's when I started looking into who made it.
No,
And,
great,
you know,
fantastic.
yeah, so then
Yeah.
you can discover, or in my case, kind of rediscover,
Mhm.
because, Ballistic is sitting on, is in my action shelf, and then discovering like, oh my God, look, this guy's made a movie stack like this thick, and
Yeah, thank you.
let me go check him out. And now I have a whole directors or DP director section of movies, that I could
Oh,
put next
great.
to others. So, so that's why I'm so happy that you decided to do
Thank
this.
you.
So,
No, no, my pleasure. Yeah, yeah. Like, yeah, I mean, I'd love talking about movies.
yeah, so do
Doesn't have to
I.
be mine.
And Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's why this could probably go on for 10 hours. So
yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
talking about stuff.
Appreciate it.
So
Appreciate it. Great. All right.
so yeah, so let's wrap it up then. And is there just as a wrap up, anything else that you want to let people know, or any advice to people, or anything like that that you'd like to give?
I mean, yeah, I think the interest in filmmaking has never been greater at any point in our history. More and more people want to be filmmakers in at every level, at every position, and I think that's a great thing. I think the technology is fantastic for anyone who wants to make a movie. You know, for people, people are doing podcasts, people are doing, on about movies and everything. You know, the love for movies is still very strong. I don't buy into this streaming is greater than theater or whatever. I think the more avenues people have to watch movies, the better. Because I genuinely believe people who love movies will always pick going to the theaters no matter what. If that choice is available, you and I are going to go watch Dune 2 on the big screen,
Oh, you have to.
and then we'll own it on the small screen. I think that's always going to be there. So I think the more avenues for films to be seen, it's always a good thing. Always a good thing, and by the same token, there are so many ways you can make a movie now. You don't have to go to college to get access to equipment. You have so much great equipment, great like technology that helps, and everything. So my biggest advice to everybody who wants to make movies is just get out there and fucking do it. You
You know,
never know.
yeah, I'm because I'm a filmmaker myself. I've
Hmm.
directed one feature. I
Hmm.
have a series called AXEMAS, and there's two of those.
Hmm.
We're making three and four. And
Great.
but the interesting thing is, when I made a short film called Skull Evil, I'd never used the camera. I'd never
Hmm.
used sound because I had other people to do it. And
Yeah.
that forced me to learn how to do these things. And Skull Evil, which is only 15, 20 minutes, I'm very proud of because even with its flaws, I did it. It was the first thing I
Exactly.
did. And
Exactly.
because of that, a friend of mine, Joe Lujan, who's a filmmaker out here, he's like, I came in for like one day to play a bum, and then I became his sound man. Now I'm his
Great.
sound man. I've never done
Perfect.
sound before. But he's like, hey, I need a
That's
sound man. Can you do sound? I did it on one short film. It's like, okay, you're my sound man. And now
perfect.
I'm
And
his
that's how
sound
it
man.
starts.
Yeah,
That's great. That's
and that's what
fantastic.
people can do today. You don't have, like you
Yes.
said, you don't have to go to
Yes.
college. You can
No.
just go out and learn it all yourself. And surprisingly, even though I like directing and writing and producing and editing and stuff, I even had to teach myself how to edit. You
Hmm.
then find a totally new avenue, sound,
Yeah. Yeah.
or whatever you would like to do.
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah, I mean, you like you said, you have to just go out and do it. You can't
Yeah.
wait. And film
Yeah. And
school's
you have all the
good,
tools to
but
do it now.
yeah,
You have all the tools to do it. Books, internet, YouTube, like, you can learn anything you want on your phone now, and then take what you
yeah.
learn and just practice it. And the like really genuinely, honestly, the sky's the limit and it's up to you to try. Not everyone. It's like not everyone that buys a lottery is going to win a lottery. Like
Right.
here, that analogy I don't even think is good. It's like if you want to be a filmmaker and all you do is sit and think about it and talk about it, you're never going to be a filmmaker
Exactly.
ever. But if you do it, you never know what's going to happen. Sure, no one might see it, everyone might hate it, but you just need one person to like it and believe in you, and you'll get a shot. That's it.
You just have to go out and do it. As an example,
Yeah.
what we're doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
You're in a completely different location than me.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
How do I do this? And I told my friend Jonathan, I said, I think I have an idea called like one filmmaker, one film, but I don't
Yeah.
know how to do it. Oh, well, you should start a YouTube channel. How do
Yeah.
I do that? Look it up on YouTube. Oh,
Yeah.
this is how you start a channel. This is what you do. Oh, I need a mic. I need a camera.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And now it's a small channel. It's growing, but I do a bunch of different stuff on it, not just this.
Yeah.
But it started as this from somebody who had no idea what to do and taking a risk on reaching out to people like you who have made a bunch of movies with
Mm-hmm.
the possibility of saying no. But then you also have the possibility of saying yes.
Exactly.
And you said yes, and this is what we're doing, and it's all because I went ahead and learned how to do it. If
That's
I could
exactly it.
do it, and I'm no IT guy, anybody could do it. So it's like, if you want to learn filmmaking, if you want to talk to filmmakers, just go do it. Just learn how to
Yeah,
do it. It's easy.
just do it. That's exactly it. That's
Yeah.
exactly it. Yeah. This has been great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
I
you're
was so
welcome.
enjoyed.
And thank
Yeah.
you. It's an honor and a pleasure.
No
So,
problem. Yeah. Thank you.
you
Thank
know,
you.
and I'm really looking forward to those upcoming films and doing my research to finding out the ones that you have different names on. So, just so that I could send you a picture. Look what I found. So I'm good at research. I know that.
Yeah.
So we'll find
Yeah.
out. So
All right.
okay. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank
And I
you.
really do appreciate it. And thank you
Yeah.
everybody for watching this.
Yeah.
And we'll see you on the next One Filmmaker, One Film.
Great.
See you later,
Thank you.
everybody.
Take care. Bye
Bye.
bye.
Bye, everybody.